Hello, everybody who's possibly watching or listening to this podcast. I have with me here my good friend, Ron Gabaldon.
Hello.
And to give you a sense of what we are going to be talking about, I wrote a little introduction.
Go ahead.
In 2010, Roger Ebert declared, "No one in or out of the field has ever been able to cite a game worthy of comparison with the great poets, filmmakers, novelists, and poets." Or at the time, this sparked a huge debate about whether video games can be art. I remember when Game Informer responded to Ebert's pronouncement and included 8 games challenging the notion. One of those games was Bioshock, released in 2007. Now, I had only recently played Bioshock for the first time when I read this article, and I completely agreed with it. In it, author Ben Reeves stated, "On the surface, Bioshock tells a story about a failed utopian society, but it is about so much more. Its narrative examines the weight of choice, the importance of free will, the exploitation of power, and the corruptibility of government. A hefty chunk of philosophy for any medium to chew on."
And a lot of stuff to shoot.
Yes, exactly. A lot of shooting.
Yeah.
The philosophy of Bioshock is grounded mainly in the ideas of objectivism, created by Ayn Rand. If it wasn't for this game, I would probably have never heard her name or known about her book, Atlas Shrugged. Thus why I must give Bioshock a 4 out of 10. It ruined my life.
Wow. I think 4's generous.
But seriously, this game introduced me to objectivism, and I have been fascinated with it ever since. When I replayed Bioshock in 2020, I finally decided to read Atlas Shrugged for the first time, a 1,200-page book. Now, returning to Ebert's blog post, he pontificated about what exactly art is, and that there will never fully be consensus over its definition. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Even Ayn Rand herself had a specific view of what art should be. Her view was, art tells man, in effect, what aspects of his experience are to be regarded as essential, significant, important. In this sense, art teaches man how to use his consciousness. She goes on to say that we need art to bring man's concepts to the perceptual level of his consciousness and allow him to grasp them directly, which I would highly agree with.
You know, that actually makes a lot of sense. I just feel bad that she didn't actually make any art.
Yeah. Our need to perceive the unperceivable is why storytelling has lasted as a cherished and highly regarded profession since the dawn of time. For the purposes of today, I'd like to narrow the scope of what art is to what I believe is one of the most important aspects of art, that it should add to a conversation. Something is art if, but not exclusively if, it has something to say. And Bioshock has a lot to say about Ayn Rand, objectivism, and Atlas Shrugged. Yet, for many, they might not know about the connection between Bioshock and Atlas Shrugged. Many might just see an underwater dystopian society plunged into civil war where genetic modifications allow for magic powers.
And stuff to shoot.
And shooting.
Lots
yes.
of
Tons
stuff to
of
shoot.
shooting.
Yeah.
Therefore, this podcast is to help bridge that gap between the two. In Part 1, we'll review Atlas Shrugged. In Part 2, we'll examine Bioshock. And in Part 3, we'll analyze the conversation between Atlas Shrugged and Bioshock. End of introduction. So yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yes, absolutely. Very nice. Well written. Great little quote from Ayn Rand, actually. Like that, I agree with. That's a good kind of explanation of what art does.
Exactly. And I read a biography on Ayn Rand that I'm going to then relate her life to you.
Yeah. I know nothing about her life.
And I have to say, looking up objectivism, looking up her stuff and like her ideas is there's actually going to be some stuff we agree with.
Oh, I'm
Ayn
sure.
Rand.
I'm sure there is.
When I get into it, you'll see why it's tainted to a degree. But Ayn Rand's objectivism actually does have some nuggets that are actually stuff that we could easily agree with. Like that, her sense of art is like, yeah, that.
Sure. Some things are useful. Some things can be useful or show us something about ourselves, even if we disagree with its premise, even if we disagree with its philosophy or the point it's trying to make. Like, okay, but there's some usable things in there
exactly.
that I'm sure apply to the notion of art and to the notion of literature.
Yeah, literature and just like a lot of life lessons to a degree.
I just don't know that I would. I don't know that I would find any of that in Atlas Shrugged.
That's also going to be a point I have to bring up
Right.
is reading it. It's like, oh man, these are great, like philosophical lessons, life lessons, something that if you are a true Randian and you actually study her and like her life and like her philosophy, you could actually go away being like, wow, yeah, this opens my eyes and really inspires me. And then like, she's such a bad writer that she didn't know how to properly put that into her stories.
I can see that.
So
I can see that, but I also disagree with a lot of the premise of selfishness, right? The defense of selfishness, and
even that, I'm gonna push back.
Okay,
Even
yeah,
that,
yeah.
even that is like she has a different kind of terminology. The problem is she used the term selfishness, and that has an immediate negative connotation.
of course.
But her application of it, her definition of it, is going to be something that modern day we would say it's not selfishness; it's establishing boundaries.
Okay.
So
No, that's a way to put it. That
So-
and even having myself grown up in a 12-step program family, the idea of tough love and of separating yourself from, an abuser, separating yourself from a damaging situation, or taking care of yourself. Essentially, just taking care of yourself.
yeah.
Right, because you can get into the weeds into a lot of different situations that aren't healthy for you, and codependent relationships, things of that type that kind of lock you into a thing that you don't know, because you're a nice person and you're trying to be giving, you're trying to be good, right, can lock you into an unhealthy situation.
Exactly. So with that then, before we put the horse before the cart,
Okay.
let's...
Yep, sorry.
no.
Oh man,
That,
it's going to be nuts.
now, who is Ayn Rand?
Inquiring minds want to know.
So I read a book. So it's called Goddess of the Market, Ayn Rand and the American Right by
Okay.
Jennifer Burns. This seems to be the most recent biography of her. It came out in 2009.
Okay.
The reason why I picked this one, Jennifer Burns, is because it's 2009, and it seemed like she had the greatest access to Ayn Rand's notes, to Ayn Rand's life, essentially.
Okay.
So, and this was very well detailed. So I had to cut it down from a basically 300-page book to about 5 pages of notes.
Okay. And I know nothing about her actual life, because reading Atlas Shrugged was enough for me. But I will say, before we get into this, that there's a lot of presupposition that goes on reading Atlas Shrugged, because the book, it yells at you.
Yes.
The book barks at you all the time. So you get a sense that she's talking to you through this book. Her way of thinking and her philosophy. So you do feel like you get to know her, and I may be wrong. I'm sure there's going to be some surprises and a lot of interesting things about her life that I don't know. But you do get a feel that I think I know where this person's coming from.
Yeah.
Who wrote this?
We start back. It is 1905, Russia. You have father Zinoviev, starting off well.
Yeah, right.
Zinoviev Rosenbaum and wife
Nice.
Anna Rosenbaum.
Okay.
They are middle-class family. Zinoviev has his own business, which is doing very well. When their first of 3 children is born on February 2nd, 1905, Elisa Rosenbaum is essentially living a good life. She has stable family. She's able to go on vacations. She's doing pretty well.
And this is this is still under the Tsar, right?
Yeah, this is still the Tsar.
Right.
So this is before World War I.
Okay.
So they're doing very well. She would go to Petrograd State University. She was born in St. Petersburg, I should mention. She also, during this time, during her childhood, fell in love with theater, or movies, I should say, movie theaters. She would always go to movie theaters. And it was there that she got a sense of what culture was. And she knew culture was not in Russia. It was somewhere else. And the movies gave her that location, America.
Okay.
So this is where she started getting fascinated with America. Fast forwarding a little bit, it's 1917.
Oh boy.
The Bolsheviks have taken over.
They did it.
Vladimir Lenin is in charge, and naturally,
We did it, everybody.
Communism is now here. And of course, the basis of communism is that everything has to be for the state, for the public good.
Yes.
So because of this, Zinoviev Rosenbaum's small business was seized by the government.
Yes.
Family had to flee to the Crimea for a little while. Then they came back to St. Petersburg. Zinoviev tried to start a second business, but that ultimately would be seized as well. And father, in order to protest the state, refused to work.
Okay.
Wow,
seeing some of the seeds for some of these characters already.
And so Elisa admired her father because of this. The idea that he was not going to give his labor to the government.
His mind.
Which then forced now wife and other kids to scrounge for jobs, to do odds and ends. They went from living a middle-class life to living a poverty-stricken life. But
see, that's what. So the original deadbeat.
Yeah,
Nick. No, I don't want to go to work. They're just going to take it away from. They're just going to take all my money.
I think already this kind of demonstrates like the problems of objectivism.
Sure.
Is it's like she spouts this idea that there's an objective reality. Like obviously there's black and white, but here she immediately uses perception. Like, oh, my father isn't a deadbeat. My father's on strike.
There's a principle.
Yeah.
My father is principled. He's not just lazy and doesn't want to he doesn't want to just contribute. He doesn't want to not contribute to the state. He is principled.
Exactly.
He's doing it for a reason. Yeah.
So her family was able to scrounge up enough money to ensure that she still went to college. She would go to the State Institute for Cinematography, hoping to become a screenwriter. She wanted to be a screenwriter.
Like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Am I getting ahead of you?
Yeah. You're good. I was about to be like, oh, my God, this.
Steve Bannon. All of those guys.
Through family connections, at the age of 25, in January of 1926, Elisa Rosenbaum finally made her way to America. During that trip, she would then rename herself Ayn Rand.
Wow, didn't even marry into the Rand name.
No.
Just like I'm going to come up with my own superhero name.
Exactly. So
or my own punk rock handle.
If anything, the author of the biography mentions that it is a nice, like, Americanized name. It is a genderless name.
True.
So she comes to New York. Spends a little time with family, but she is so grating on the family that they ultimately here's some money for California. So she comes to California. Second day in California, she's by the studio, and she's just kind of like staring at the studio when a car drives out of the studio, and it stops, and the person driving the car is talking, and they notice Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand has this powerful, piercing eyes.
Yeah.
And the driver...
This is already a very Randian kind of story.
And so the driver looks at her, sees the piercing eyes, and is immediately intrigued and calls her over. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't know English. She's got broken English.
Okay.
So she's trying to talk as well as she can. And they start up a conversation, and the driver is like, well, get in the car. Turns out to be Cecil B. DeMille, the director.
Boy, and this is actually because the time period you're talking about is when a thing like that would happen. You'd never see something like that happen now.
Oh, yeah.
I could go hang out. A hotter person than me can go hang out in front of any of the studios and just wait for a car carrying the right person, right to... And it's insane how much luck plays into a person's success in this country, and we discount it. But at the same time, it happened a lot more then, because there was less people, less industry, less of this kind of thing going on.
Less separation, too.
Yeah, right, and less separation between the classes. So
she gets invited into the car. Cecil B. DeMille is driving her around, and when they get to the studio, it is Cecil B. DeMille's movie that he's working on, King of Kings. They're talking, and he's just like, well, if you need a job, you can be one of the extras.
Ooh.
And so she becomes an extra. And it's through there that she meets one of the actors by the name of Frank O'Connell.
Okay.
Not O'Connor.
Frank O'Connor.
Yeah, Frank O'Connor. she immediately falls in love with him and does everything she can to try to get his attention, even messing up a scene to have him accidentally bump into her.
Oh, clever.
Yeah. Frank finishes his scenes. They don't see each other again. It's not until a chance encounter that they're in the Los Angeles library that Frank sees her and just beaming smile recognizes her. And they start a relationship.
You're the one that manipulated me into noticing you.
Yeah. I mean, it's still cute.
Yeah, right, exactly. What else is love?
And so a year after dating, they got married.
Mm-hmm.
In 1929, Frank O'Connor marries Ayn Rand. I'm not going to talk about Frank that much, but reading this book, I fell in love with Frank. He was the nice, doting husband.
Aw.
He when Ayn Rand succeeded, he essentially became a house husband. He took care of the house.
That's my dream.
She's obviously the firebrand. She's and
Absolutely.
very, very stern. He barely said anything. Whenever topics of controversy came up, he just kind of sat
opinion.
there. Yeah.
Wow.
He was just
a role reversal for the time.
Yeah.
Especially for that time.
Yes.
That's my husband. He doesn't have an opinion on anything. Go bring us some whiskey, dear.
And also, to be fair, Ayn Rand also very much loved him.
Oh.
She would credit him essentially as being her rock. It was him who motivated her to finish The Fountainhead.
Oh, it's so great.
She attributes the title Atlas Shrugged to him, saying it should be called Atlas Shrugged. So whenever she was angry and mad and all that, he was the comfort. Stock market crashes, 1929.
Right, we're there.
She luckily is able to find work. She becomes a filing clerk in a wardrobe department at RKO Radio Studios. And it's during this time that she writes her first screenplay, Red Pawn, which Universal picks up in 1932 for $7,000. And then they also pay her $800 for a contract to adapt it into a screenplay. Okay, so Red Dawn would have been a story.
Red Dawn?
Red Pawn. I'm sorry, Red Pawn.
Pawn. Like a chess pawn? Okay,
yes.
Great.
Red Pawn.
Red Dawn? That's already been done, man.
Yes. Red Pawn.
Patrick Swayze wouldn't be born for another
So it would be a
40
story.
years.
Then they paid her to adapt it into a screenplay, but it was never produced. So that's her first success. Is able to quit her job, write full time. That's where we get her novel We the Living, which is about conditions in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So here this is very much clear her Russian connections. However, it is pretty much panned. People don't like it. During the time of the Great Depression, from what it sounds like, the New York elitists of the day were actually favoring communist Russia, believed that capitalism failed here.
Yeah.
And so Russia seemed as a good alternative. And because the book essentially says Russia's awful or Russia's conditions are deplorable, critics began criticizing her for that.
I can see that.
And this is where she started very much going, communists are everywhere, and very much becoming anti-communist.
Yeah.
She voted for FDR in 1932.
Okay.
But by 1936, she's now campaigning for Wendell Willkie of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
This is where she becomes much more politically active. Willkie doesn't get elected.
No, of course not.
But through this, she becomes more politically active. She's in the middle of writing The Fountainhead, by the way.
Okay.
And The Fountainhead was not supposed to be political. It wasn't supposed to have any controversy charged in that sense.
I read The Fountainhead when I was probably 21 or 22, and I don't specifically remember having gleaned anything off of it that was political.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to have a point. It was just very much about these people and one guy who wants to get a thing done. And I hardly remember it now, but yeah.
It started off non-political, but through her campaigning, she grew to love politics. She grew to love campaigning. She grew to love and even try to organize an organization for individualists.
Okay.
It was like the motto was like individualists unite, which is like that's an oxymoron.
Absolutely.
But here
individualists.
She writes the Individualist Manifesto that essentially starts her philosophizing. Ultimately, the organization doesn't kick off. It
of course,
fails.
Because they're all individuals.
Well, it's because Keynesian economics is starting to work.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing. And a lot of individualists, a lot of the old school laissez-faire are just like, we just don't have ammunition anymore. We don't have the grout. Through all this, she finally finishes The Fountainhead. And some of it, because of her political campaigning, it does bleed into the book, where now that she finds a greater reason to write the book, and that is to attack altruism.
Okay.
So here, the book is essentially rewritten in certain aspects to...
I can trace that now, actually, to a period of my life where I was an asshole who didn't believe in altruism. I remember specifically arguing with a woman I was dating at the time that like altruism didn't exist. And I'm pretty sure, even though I don't really quite remember the book, I'm pretty sure it was maybe because of that book that I had argued such a thing.
So here, my notes is she got a publisher for The Fountainhead 3 days after Pearl Harbor. Now she's actually contractually obligated to finish the book. And now she has a new theme that's going to define her career: the evil of altruism. Because of the tight contract, she's going to have to find a way to be able to write fast. And here she is going to get addicted to Benzedrine.
Oh, Benzedrine. Yeah, Bennies.
So basically, she will become addicted to amphetamines.
Okay, yeah,
and that's going
absolutely,
to
totally, and it will warp her brain chemistry. This is going to radicalize her even further.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
So with it, when it releases, the book is a success, selling thousands of copies in months. The Fountainhead essentially helps because it comes out in 1946, I believe, if I remember correctly. And that essentially helps revive libertarianism after the war.
Right. Can I just mention real quick, speaking of altruism, sure seemed like her husband was a big practitioner of altruism for her to, and also the idea of calling something evil. Right, a concept like altruism. There's a kind of thread throughout Atlas Shrugged and what seems like throughout what we're getting into now. Right, so at this point in her life, things start to really become black and white.
Yeah.
Right? Things are either evil or good. And the things that people think are good are actually evil. And she's going to tell us about why they're evil. And there's never any nuance about like, well, you know, it has its good uses and it has its bad uses. There's no like light and dark in all of us. You're either good or you're evil.
Obviously, one thing I kind of skimmed over is a lot of this is an attack on FDR and the New Deal.
The New Deal.
Communism and the fear that essentially statism is this idea of the state being more involved in people's lives.
Right.
With the release, Warner Brothers then paid $50,000 for the rights to her book. And they even brought her on to write the script adaptation for the movie. Location, geography. She is in California when she meets Frank O'Connor, then moves back to New York. I forget exactly why, but I think it's also she hated California. She loved New York. New York's are where the elites are, or where the intellectuals are.
Yeah.
But because she has to write the script and essentially oversee its production, they have to move back to California. So they spend the next 8 years in California, living in Chatsworth, California.
Wow, Chatsworth.
Yeah,
oh my God.
So I'm sure if we were to look it up, we can find, if they haven't turned it into a site or anything, the house where Ayn Rand lived.
Or if some other wealthy person is already living there and like, oh yeah, Ayn Rand lived in this house.
Yeah. So with that, she will spend essentially the rest of the 1940s in California working on the script, taking Benzedrine. I don't know why I can't say that.
Bennies. Just say Bennies.
Bennies.
Goofballs.
And she's also, so here she's at Chatsworth. The reason why she picked Chatsworth is because it's far away from Hollywood. It's a drive. So that way there's that disconnect.
Okay, so she doesn't have to be around all the rabble.
Yeah. She was next to Los Angeles State University, which would, in the 1950s, be renamed California State University Northridge. And
Aren't you a graduate?
I am. I graduated there.
Okay.
And so some of the students from Los Angeles State University would actually go to Ayn Rand. And here we'll start seeing a little bit of her influence on students.
So she's talking, she's proselytizing.
Exactly.
She's become a figure that's worthy of lecturing and passing along these ideas.
Exactly. Because during this time, The Fountainhead is written, and she's starting to release like smaller articles on stuff. So she's becoming a little known.
Mm-hmm.
And now
essays.
Essays and all that. Yeah. And so that's important because she's going to meet someone from LASU. With that, her work was essentially panned amongst literary critics. People ignored her. But her work would very much take off amongst business circles and other Americans nervous about the New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially those who like the idea of capitalism.
People who want more of capitalism and people who capitalism most benefits.
Exactly.
Are of course they're gonna agree with it. They're gonna want more of that, and I feel like it's a good thing for them because right now they've got PR problems with a lot of the labor actions that are going on and a lot of the violence that's been happening between labor unions and industry.
Right. Yeah.
For them to not have a way to actually sell their philosophy, have a philosophy first of all, and then not be able to sell it to the people in a way that helps them fight public opinion versus these unions, right? So to have a unified idea and a philosophy to kind of get behind is like, oh wow, this is great. Oh geez, I wish I couldn't have said it better. I wish I'd thought of that. Like that's,
exactly.
It's a unifying person and idea.
While she was here, she did hit a financial crunch. So as she's working on The Fountainhead, ultimately that's going to end. So in order to sustain herself, she will get a job as a script supervisor, helping punching up scripts.
Sure.
I can't remember where, probably RKO or Universal. And at this point, as she was talking to someone, a friend of hers, this is when the idea of creators going on strike hit her all at once. And that's when she thought up her next book. And she began planning in 1945 her next big magnus opus.
Oh, boy.
But
what's it going to be?
Yeah.
I hope it's good.
I tried to sprinkle in some fun facts.
Okay.
But so she's working this job, punching up scripts, and her boss told her to begin a treatment about a script on the nuclear bomb, about the nuclear bomb. And so for research, she went to Los Alamos and interviewed J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Wow.
Though the movie was never made, her interview did fuel a character in her developing novel, Robert Stadler.
Okay, I get that. I get that connection now. Yeah, especially and it gives me an idea about her opinion of Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I can actually I can draw that kind of like I see how that influences like that character.
Exactly.
Yeah, Robert Stadler. We'll get into that when we talk about the book.
Exactly. But I wanted to bring that. All right, so now the students from Los Angeles State University.
Mm-hmm.
She's lecturing. She gets a fan letter from one of the students. This is Nathan Blumenthal. Nathan Blumenthal, at first, she kind of didn't really care, but at Los Angeles State University, she would give a lecture, and Nathan Blumenthal would be there. And here, their connection, or their first meetup, would start an 18-year relationship.
Okay.
So he is now an important figure.
What's his name again?
Nathan Blumenthal. So she has that going on. Meanwhile, at large, the 1950s comes around. We are very conformist. We're very religious, anti-communist. Ayn Rand is a full-blown atheist. She hates Christianity.
One thing her and I can have some kind of common ground on.
Her reasoning is because religion is essentially the starting point of collectivism, is the starting point of altruism. And so, it also
if it's used for that purpose. I mean,
it also obscures rational thought. That's her. So
Absolutely.
She's completely against religion.
Okay.
But 1950s, religion is kind of the big thing.
Yeah.
And so here we start seeing this separation of what would become objectivists and what would become of conservatives. Because objectivists are against religion while conservatives are for religion.
Right. And objectivists you can see as kind of proto-libertarian, whereas conservative, very Christian, very biblical.
Exactly.
Nation under God type of thing.
And this is going to have a problem later on because her work inspires libertarians, inspires conservatives, and yet she's very atheist.
Yeah.
And so this is going to drive that
I'm
wedge.
sure that gets conveniently kind of
washed under.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Because of the great return to religion in the 1950s, as she was mapping out Atlas Shrugged, she would then cut a priest character. Because a priest character was originally supposed to have that like come to Jesus moment when it comes to her story.
But she probably already had a bunch of like crappy, ugly, smelly, sweaty, greasy
but he was
moochers and looters to choose from.
He was supposed to be as far as I know, he would have been the only character who went from being a looter to a producer.
Oh, wow. Someone to actually like convert.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that at all
You don't get that
in the book.
But she cut the character because she didn't want any religion in the book.
Right.
With Nathan, he started bringing friends over to the house. And she essentially became their like mentor, their teacher over like her founding philosophy, her starting philosophy. Objectivism isn't there yet, but she's starting to really assemble this philosophy group that would trade back and forth, discuss philosophy ideas. And jokingly, they became known as the Collective.
Okay.
So here you have a collective of Rand, who this would be the 40s. So she's would be in her 40s with students who are like 19 or so. Nathan Blumenthal himself is studying psychology. So he's studying the mind. And through their works, Ayn Rand is able to give them a philosophy lecture while they are able to teach her a lot of the gaps in terms of like human thought and human ideas.
Yeah, sure.
Important people would show up. Probably the most famous of the collective would be Alan Greenspan of the Federal Reserve.
Wow. A real who's who up in here.
Alan Greenspan, when he was elevated to the Federal Reserve Board, actually brought Ayn Rand to the White House as a guest during the ceremony. Essentially,
we're really seeing like the like Illuminati Masonic Bilderberg's kind of like power structure, like just coming to life. Really,
I essentially wrote because now people are coming in. Let's see. It was talking to college-aged men and women that she learned the power she can wield with untrained minds, those who haven't lived yet nor have experiences. She's looking to spread her ideas to the uninitiated. So my note then goes, she essentially was starting a cult with the collective.
Yep.
Those who saw her as the unquestionable leader and learned from her. In order to keep up with her young followers, Rand was constantly taking amphetamines. Because she was
I was just going to get to that. I was just going to get to that because that is what it is definitely, as a person who has experienced a lot of methamphetamines in my life, you do get a God complex. Yeah. You get a Messiah complex. You think you've got it all figured out. Right, you've reasoned everything out in your brain, and you just start telling people about it. And if you have enough people around you that are like, oh wow, yeah, you're really onto something there, like it builds up into you.
Yeah, essentially, this is what became a cult. They initially you could have pushback, but near the end, you could not disagree with Ayn Rand. If you challenged her in any way, she lost interest in you.
Of course,
she would just go to the next person.
The book absolutely reflects that.
At some point later on, it gets very cult-like where they start calling her prophetess. Calling them disciples.
Oh.
It takes on a very cult-like fashion. So there's some quotes in the book of just like, this is they're getting like really serious. Like They're no longer going there to have a conversation. They're going there to just listen to
listen and worship.
So so the rest of her life essentially is this cult.
Wow.
So she turned her collective, creating an echo chamber. Oh, and because of this, she stopped essentially allowing the outside world to influence her.
Of course.
She turned everything in where, as she was writing...
Everything you're saying is like, it's so very much reflective of that book, of Atlas Shrugged.
Because as she was writing Atlas Shrugged, she would give sample chapters to those in the collective. And I can guarantee you, they were not giving...
No, they weren't giving
constructive
notes.
feedback. They weren't giving any feedback.
No, they were just saying like, no notes. This is perfect.
So,
don't change a word.
So at this point...
You spelled this thing wrong. Leave it in.
At this point, the only outside news she's getting now is the daily newspaper. Everything else is more internal, is part of the collective.
Wow.
She did not like Eisenhower because she saw Eisenhower as too moderate, and obviously religion. So she hated that.
True.
And decided that it was time to officially break away from conservatism.
Okay.
And this is where now she's really trying to develop her own philosophy of objectivism, one separated from conservatism altogether. So
as a political kind of as a political movement.
Well, not really political, but more as an ideological difference.
Okay.
Nathan marries a woman by the name of Barbara, and together they both change their last name.
No. Did they change their last name to Rand? They took her name in the marriage?
Almost.
Oh no! What happened?
They are now Nathan and Barbara Brandon.
Brandon?
Brandon, because of
Brandon.
Yeah, so D-E-N, so Brandon.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, it sounds like an Ayn Randian character's name.
Oh, Hank Rearden or something. Yeah.
Two, it has the name Rand in it.
Sure. Yeah. Ooh, clever. These folks are so clever.
Even though Ayn Rand has pushed for this relationship. Nathan and Barbara were dating before they met Ayn Rand, but they both were stalwarts in the collective. And Ayn Rand encouraged their relationship, encouraged them to get married, even though there was a spark of interest between Nathan and Ayn Rand. So there was some flirting in that.
Of course, because it's a cult. Right? You can't have a cult without some kind of they might have done those two might have, and these people might have. There's always that kind of incestuous kind of energy running through cults. In every documentary of a cult I've ever watched or read about, there's always something like that going on.
At one point, it was just the two of them, Nathan and Ayn Rand, and through some awkwardness, they finally had their hesitant first kiss. And that, there's something that Frank could not fill. Nathan was the intellectual. He studied philosophy.
He had a little more, because Frank, nice a guy as he was, and as supportive, immensely supportive as he was, maybe she wanted something that was a little more that had a little more weight or gravity to it.
Appealed to her intellectual senses.
Sure, yeah.
And he was studying psychology, so right now they're essentially equals in terms of their respective fields. And so they start a relationship.
Of course.
But Rand, believing in objectivism's rationality of being honest, convened a meeting of all four of them.
Oh, boy.
And outwardly just expressed that, we want to secure a few hours alone a week.
Oh, so there's a deal.
And all four of them agree to the deal.
Okay.
So
hey, you know what? If it works, I'm not going to...
So twice a week, Frank would leave the house. And so that way Nathan and Rand could have their little canoodle fests.
Canoodle fests?
That's how I'm going to...
That's how you're gonna put it. That's not how I put it, but
again,
I like your terminology, that canoodle fest.
Again, this is where I feel bad for
We're
Frank.
having a little canoodle fest.
Yeah,
come with me. We're going to have a canoodle fest.
Yeah. With our strudel.
Have a strudel canoodle fest.
This is why I feel bad for Frank because he has to leave for 2 hours.
Well,
and
is he, because, my understanding of open relationships and polyamory, right, are that, you have a primary, and then you've got like people you have fun with, and it works for both parties.
I don't think so.
Everybody has to agree to it usually for it to actually work.
I would say because of the times are different back then. This is 1950s.
Yeah.
This is like there'd be no setup for this.
And it's right. I mean, a lot more study and a lot more writing has been done about it.
True.
I think in the last probably 10 or 20 years. Or 30 years than there was then.
Exactly. Right. And with that, I think Frank is just he loved his wife.
Yeah.
So because why I feel bad about this is the only place that he could go to kill those 2 hours was to the bar. So he just ended up drinking.
So
and it was just like
so alcoholism now.
The book doesn't say if he developed an alcohol problem.
Okay.
If anything,
I can see how it would contribute.
How it would contribute if he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately this would have some strain at the beginning because everyone agreed with it. But Frank, and took it on the chin. He would leave twice a week for 2 hours
What a guy.
And go to the bar to hang out.
I gotta look this guy up.
Barbara. Well, initially she had fits. She had panic attacks. She couldn't understand it because of objectivism.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan and Ayn were just like, I don't know what's understanding. This is logical. This is rational. And they could not.
Objectivism works for them.
They couldn't figure out why she was having panic attacks because they couldn't factor in that, maybe she's having an emotional reaction to the situation. They couldn't, emotion was just not there for them.
You have to wonder if Frank or Barbara, right, had gone off and okay, no, we're totally cool with this. We're gonna go find some, some fun people ourselves, and that way we're not just sitting in a bar getting drunk for the few hours that you two are canoodle festing.
Yeah.
And what their response would have been to that? Would it have been as rational? Would it have been as objective?
Yeah.
Right? Would there have been that kind of still? Or is it one of those kind of philosophies, which is kind of what my suspicion is that this is the kind of philosophy that works. If it works for you, then you fully believe in it. But it doesn't work for everyone. So people who are on the outside of that philosophy, right? People that it's working against, right? Or the people the argument is that they just don't get it, or they're not practicing it hard enough, or
Nathan would essentially fold objectivism into his psychology practices, and so the idea essentially is that the rational mind should overpower the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything has some sort of rational
of course.
Explanation for it. So for them, it's just this blind spot in terms of, she's having an attack. She should be able to rationally overcome her emotions.
Yeah.
And the thing...
That's like telling someone to calm down.
Exactly. Exactly. But
it never works.
When it comes to Nathan, one thing that there was a comment in the book that kind of shifted things was objectivism. If you just look at it, it seems pretty good. It seems to kind of have some standards that you and I would agree with.
Sure.
But it seems like with Nathan and Ayn together, they helped develop it into one of judgment. Because his practice was essentially to judge why you're feeling away. I'm anxious. Why are you? You should be able to get your emotions under check and be rational. So it seems like Nathan...
That's one of my biggest problems with this, with the way this is headed. And again, like you said, I'm sure there are things of objectivism that, we both would agree with. And even me. And I'm, because, I'm a very... leftist. I am a very, very leftist leaning person. I'm wearing a T-shirt that says capitalism is the bad guy.
Yeah.
I believe in I believe socialism can work. I believe that there are, that capitalism is inherently bad. That there are, so where my politics lie.
Yeah.
But it's when it starts to become this judgy. When it starts to look down its nose at you, right, is where, even if the things that I can agree with objectivism on, right, are kind of sullied by being judged, right, by people that I don't feel have the right to judge me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that essentially seems to be what's going to happen in the next few years of Ayn Rand's life, is with Nathan and her essentially developing this atmosphere of judgment, of holding up these certain, or of rationality. And eventually they stop even accepting any criticism.
Of course.
Like Ayn Rand at one point is even going to mention that she's not interested in like discussion anymore. She's essentially interested in just spreading her word.
Yep. The book is, it is one of my major criticisms of this book is how much this book judges the reader, right? It is sneering at you. Atlas Shrugged is sneering at you for not being as good as the main characters of this book.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. And I just want to mention, like, also the age difference between Nathan and Ayn Rand is 25 years. Nathan was so young when he got into the collective that obviously there would be this sense of seeing her on a pedestal. And like,
so she had a ready-made first in command worshiper.
Yeah.
That also was her sex pet, her canoodle pet.
And this actually ties into why objectivism and sex doesn't go together well, is because according to objectivism, sex is not physical. Sex is essentially finding the greatest value in someone. Like, there's no, like, the idea is essentially you're attracted to someone because you see them as having value, intellectual worth, or something.
Boy, I've valued a lot of people over the years.
And so here you have this relationship between Nathan and Ayn Rand, which a young person obviously looks up to an older authority figure, and obviously there would be a lot of value there. I don't like, again, I don't know if I've said this before, but I don't like the transactional nature of all of this. It does seem like there is a kind of I'm putting it in transactional terms.
Yeah, like value. When you use the word value.
But yeah, because they would view each other in that aspect.
Like, what worth do you have to me? What can like you're buying a car.
But because I would say when it comes to the selfishness is that obviously it would be selfish to want to be attracted by someone who thinks you have worth, right? So so that's, I think that kind of gives it that balance in a sense.
Yeah.
So they become lovers. Overall, there's now kind of disruption. Canoodlers. It also doesn't help that she's in the middle of this like writing kind of issue in writing Atlas Shrugged. She's in this obstacle because she's finally made it to the big speech. And so she's working hard to finish the speech, and every now and again she's trying to get it just right. She thought it'd only take her a few months to write the speech. It took her weird. It took her 2 years to write that speech.
Okay.
Just that speech.
Wow, it almost took me that long to read it. And here's the crazy thing, because I think you brought up when you talk about like Benzedrine, so any kind of amphetamine or something, like that speech is very indicative of that kind of use.
Because it's just like rambling, or
because it's almost like you're just thinking of a new way to say the thing you already said, right? And so everything builds on top. Well, it's because you're very one-track mind at that point, and so your point or whatever you're trying to say, you just need to think of because you don't have anything else really to say, you just think of another way to say that thing. I don't know if I might have the same criticism of Infinite Jest in a different kind of way, because that book seems to go on and on and on and on, and it is there. It's a funny and interesting book, but you do get the sense that like, well, this guy just like kept going and going, like didn't know where to stop. So go ahead.
So she finally finishes the speech. It took her 2 years. Finishes it in 1956. The book comes out in 1957. This is capitalism at its best. You have
boy.
Hiram Hayden of Random House, who disliked her philosophy but believed the book would be a bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
So they purchased the book despite Ayn Rand having misgivings about their ideology. And he was just like, bestseller, just give it to me.
Sight unseen.
And according to the biography, she refused any editorial changes, and the House accepted that.
Absolutely. No notes.
So, with that, the book comes out. It is panned across the board.
Universally.
But there are so many different perspectives. Many companies would actually reprint speeches from the book and distribute them.
Mm-hmm.
Because of her anti-religious sentiments, Rand could be used as a liberal stereotype of conservatives. Conservatives didn't like the book either because of its staunch anti-Christ views of the free market. So
I didn't get a whole lot of that out of...
I mean, just because it's not based on any religious morality.
Yeah,
It's just,
no.
So either way, like, she got flack from everybody because conservatives or liberals can say, see, this is what a conservative is. And conservatives be like, no,
this is what a liberal is. Yeah, right.
And then companies will be like, yeah, this is our philosophy. And so,
right.
Horrible book, but it caused such a stir. It created so much attention.
Right. Like I said, and I think I'm going to use this now. I've mentioned this to you. I've called this book a 1,200-page fart in church. That is essentially what this book is. It is a 1,200-page 9-year-old farting in church, right? It causes a bunch of commotion. She knew she was causing a bunch of commotion. She knew it was going to. I think it was the intention of it was to upset apple carts and to get people's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yeah. So it does that, but Ayn Rand falls into a Great Depression afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because it is panned across, and those that she hoped would at least see its greater themes, see its greater morals, really attach themselves to it would be the intellectuals of, or the elites, the New Yorks, the creative higher-ups. But they panned it as well. The literary community.
The literary world. I can see how that would,
And so because she got no intellectual recognition, she fell into a depression. Mm-hmm. She then, for a brief time, paused the canoodling with Nathan.
Oh, no.
Because she just couldn't.
And at this point, he's how old?
I mean, this would be the 1950s. I would say he's got to be mid-20s.
Oh, okay.
This is where Rand is. She's not going to write another novel. She's written her 4 main novels, We the Living, Anthem, Fountainhead, and Atlas Shrugged. From here on out, she's just going to be philosopher. She essentially turns away from writing not literature to writing nonfiction
books of
and articles and speeches.
I think while we were talking about, I think you and I were having a meeting about this about Atlas Shrugged, and my girlfriend texted me a picture that she found from the library, which was just called "In Defense of Selfishness."
Yeah, the virtue of selfishness.
And yeah, right. So I'm like, of course, and those are the things that I remember actually finding of hers was like For the New Intellectual.
Oh yeah.
So just books that were specifically nonfiction philosophy.
So for essentially the rest of her life, she's now recognized enough to give lectures at campuses. Like, this is where she comes out of her depression, because she's now being recognized as an intellectual, at least on campuses.
Sure.
She appeals to a lot of young audiences. The collective grows to the point that they even form an institute to help spread her philosophy called the Nathan Brandon Institute. So the NBI.
Okay.
So the idea is Nathan would then spread her objectivist ideas. They would even record lectures that would then be sent across the United States. Chapters would open up throughout the United States. You have an objectivist university opening up. So Nathan very much takes her philosophy and turns it into this institute, turns it into this source of education. And so that's one possibility of why objectivism was still so widespread or was still so prominent.
And I mean, I can see how it would appeal to, business schools, how it would appeal to certain types of learning institutions. because it benefits, like here's how you can be even more selfish. Here's how you can be, it justifies unbridled greed.
This expands it. While in the collective, it is very much a cult now. Like full on, they are calling her prophetess now and apostles and
wearing the same clothes.
If you
shaving their heads.
And Ayn Rand, like I didn't mention this, but Ayn Rand has a history of essentially falling out with people. Like she always with good friends, mentors that taught her philosophy, she falls out with.
Yeah.
And so here. Now the cult is very much like if you slight her in any way, even the simplest thing,
sure,
you could be put on trial.
You are excommunicated.
So if you cross her in any way, you are put on trial. Mm-hmm. You are kicked out. You are forgotten.
Disappeared.
Yeah, and so you have what also is weird is that this would happen to people who are full-on objectivists, who love her, she would then kick out, but because they still are in love with her philosophy, they are still trying to organize objectivist events, and that even though they're not in the cult, yeah, they were kicked out. They kicked out as she really takes off in the late 1960s, 1970s, all these objectivist groups open up, and by this point, they are now rigid. Ayn Rand and Nathan are so rigid in their philosophy. They do not look at the outside world. Ayn Rand is even looking back at her old stuff and taking out anything that is at odds with objectivists so for future editions.
She's retconning her own work.
And it gets to the point that they were so particular about who was an objectivist that it was you are only an objectivist if you are part of the collective. If you are not, then you are just someone who has an interest in objectivism.
You're a hobbyist.
Yeah. And so they were...
A dilettante.
They were very particular about that.
Now, I can see that. It's so wild how... because I think this is a very common thread of cults. I talked about this on a video that I did on my YouTube channel, was that... these cults, especially the current cult we have now, this rage cult.
Yeah.
Cults tend to they get more and more strict. They get more and more solidified, right? Eventually it collapses into some kind of violence, and people start drifting away from it, right? So it's it has a life. It has a lifespan, right? It has a shelf life. Where it waxes and then is at full and then wanes, but that's my understanding of cults.
Yeah, and so it's crazy. People would provoke events. They would criticize, say no, these are not sanctioned. You can't do these. They refuse. When someone wanted to name themselves the John Galt Society, Ayn Rand would shut it down, saying, "No, John Galt is my character.
I'm in love with him. That's my boyfriend."
That is my intellectual property.
Uh-huh.
And so they would willingly sue fans of theirs because they would be using their intellectual property.
Yeah. Like Walt Disney would do or
that's right, the Disney company.
Right.
So here NBI took on this cult-like atmosphere as well of just you gotta they even mentioned in their literature join up if you are serious about
right. We don't want any
exactly.
half measures.
Because of this, libertarians started to latch on to objectivism because libertarianism and objectivism are there.
It's really right there.
Ayn Rand hated libertarians. She hated them.
I have to know why.
She believed that they were plagiarists because they were stealing her work.
True. Yeah.
Two, eventually, libertarianism essentially put... Ayn Rand actually isn't against the state. She's for limited government. Mm-hmm. She actually believes that there needs to be a government. Mm-hmm. But libertarianists twisted her words to say no,
they want no government.
No government.
Absolutely.
And so for her,
no driver's licenses, no no safeguards, no standards. Yeah.
She hated libertarians. Ultimately, as this all spread, by the 1970s, Nathan and Ayn had essentially stopped their They're canoodling.
Canoodling.
And
So
now
there's a halt.
there was a halt. There was a halt. So Ayn Rand tried to revive it, tried to bring it back. But by this point, Nathan was no longer interested. And in fact, one of his students at NBI would catch his eye. A 23-year-old woman by the name of Patricia Gollison, Patricia Gollison, would catch his eye, and he would immediately fall in love with her. This would lead to Nathan and Barbara splitting up.
Okay.
And this was huge because for Ayn Rand, she was the one that encouraged the relationship. Objectivists essentially says.
So she is. So he is essentially, because like you said, at this point in the cult, anything you say against, or if you have even the slightest criticism of the cult, this is a very large criticism right here.
Yeah.
Your judgment didn't last that long, or didn't hold out long enough for me to continue to be married to this one person because I want to go marry this other person.
There's that. Then there's also, again, like he was no longer interested in Ayn Rand. He wanted to essentially be with Patricia. And here again,
well, then there's the personal,
Well, not even the personal. The objectivist idea again was that sex is not physical. It's about obtaining, value, about having intellectual value. And here, by no longer being interested in Ayn Rand, it meant that Nathan no longer saw her as valuable. I said like that.
Right.
So
I get that betrayal. Yeah.
So he had to go had this almost like coming to God moment of just like I'm feeling these feelings towards her,
right,
but really,
right. How do you rationally
on an objectivist
explain
thing, I should be going towards Rand, and it's just, and to me, my thinking is like there's an easy out. It's that values change over time.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Like Ayn Rand,
values aren't absolute.
Ayn Rand is in her 60s now. You think like mentally she's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the drug use.
Yeah,
and the drug use.
So objectivism and sex, not a good combination.
No.
Ultimately, he's doing everything he can he doesn't want to break her heart, and so he's just like ignoring her and just deflecting. And every time she asks, like, you still want me? He's like, yes, I do. I'm just
sure, baby.
Yeah, of course.
No, you're the only one for me.
Until in 1968,
I only see value in you.
Yeah. Until 1968, when Barbara finally spilled the beans for him.
Oh.
Was just like Barbara and Nathan are now split. They're getting a divorce. Barbara's just like, hey, Rand, Nathan doesn't want to be with you because he's in love with someone else. Rand naturally has a conniption fit.
Of course.
Forces Nathan to come to her apartment. And he does, and immediately she just starts chewing him out, yelling at him, and then tells him to leave and never come back. And they will never see each other again.
Okay.
Because of this, Rand begins dismantling Nathan's business, dismantling
it's the NBI. It's got his name.
Dismantling that. And when the sexual affair does come out, this obviously causes problems. Like here, the objectivists...
It would shake the very foundation of this cult, of this organization.
Exactly. So with that, people start backing out of objectivist events. Events start being canceled. It's kind of the nadir of objectivism. And it gave her critics a lot of ammunition of just like, how can you say that you are morally supreme when you are...
Right.
So
the hypocrisy.
Here, with Nathan leading everything, there's an argument to be made that Nathan is the reason why objectivism gets such a bad rap, because he infused it with this cult-like... Well, Anne's guilty of it too, but Nathan seemed to be the one championing essentially this cult-like personality, this NBI that would spread objectivism, and essentially even in his psychology practice, have a sense of just like treating emotional issues with judgment. It's like, why aren't you getting over this? Like you rational, like, and so that I think probably layers a lot of why objectivism gets a lot of negativity, is because, and they couldn't even uphold their own objective values.
Right. Like I say, the hypocrisy of objectivism. It works for you for a while, or it works for you. So long as it's working for you,
because even Frank, like Frank, why didn't he ever get a job? And the way Ayn Rand rationalized it was with the same with her father is, oh, he's on strike.
He's withholding his genius from the world.
But yeah, so that eventually ends everything. The 1970s, in 1973, Ayn Rand has developed lung cancer because she smoked like 2 packs a day.
Every interview I've ever seen of Ayn Rand is her smoking.
So in 1976, she wrote her last newsletter, and she essentially disappeared from public life.
Mm-hmm.
Frank died in 1979. The book did not mention what he died of. So Ayn Rand. Frank dies in 1979. It's 1982, and Ayn Rand misses Frank and has not fallen in love, but is infatuated with this actor who kind of looks like Frank in his younger days. And it's like, oh, and so it's like, oh, and so but the only downside is this actor grew a mustache.
Uh-huh.
And Ayn Rand didn't like facial hair.
Okay.
And Frank didn't have facial hair. So he was just like, so she was just like, oh, I want to find a picture of this actor without facial hair. Finds it. And like, now I want to enlarge it so that way I can put it on my wall. And so determined, she went downstairs and her nurse was just like, no, remember to wear a coat. It's like, no, I don't need a coat. It goes down. And this is winter. This is like February.
Okay.
And so she goes down to like the camera store or like the shop nearby to get this picture. So she's going through rain both ways, no coat. She's in her 70s. She's had an operation for her lung.
She gets pneumonia.
Yeah. And a few days later, she dies. And to me, it's just like she died, like wanting to really she died because of her love of Frank. Like
sure, it comes back. Yeah, I imagine that like at that point in your life, it starts to come back to what you held on to as the joys of your life and wanting to reclaim that. So, I mean, I could make jokes about it, but it does seem kind of sad and
to me that's like, oh man, because I liked Frank and I like and I like that her last act is essentially remembering Frank.
Yes, right, exactly. Always comes back to the thing that you loved the most and the thing that brought you the most joy, regardless of what happened to you and whatever kind of like strife you may have experienced or strife you may have caused.
Yeah.
It always, like, near the end, it comes back to, like, what brought you the most joy.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that is the life of Rand.
Wow. Okay.
And now I briefly want to just go through some of her political stances. I'm just going to run through these.
Okay. Well.
Very, very quick. So she's atheist.
Yep.
She's pro-abortion.
Okay.
Anti-draft.
Yeah.
Anti-monopoly. Anti-feminist. Pro-Israel. Anti-Native American. Pro-militarization.
Wait, pro-Israel or anti-Israel?
Pro-Israel.
Okay.
Anti-Reagan.
Okay.
And
makes sense.
And she would say that believed Reagan was a conservative in the worst sense of the word.
True.
And limited government. She hated environmentalists. She even though her books are proto-feminist, she hated feminists.
Mm-hmm.
And she hated libertarians. So that is kind of a rundown of her.
Okay.
And you can see a little bit like, oh, she kind of leans both ways.
Yeah, it does seem to kind of split. I would question the things that she's against, why she's against those things.
Yeah, and I can expound more on that.
Yeah,
but
right.
For time, just accept what I say.
Yes, of course, Bobby. Of course, propheter Bobby, prophetess. I won't, because you're not a prophet. You're not a prophetess.
Prophet. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the prophet at.
Yeah. So that is her life. And we're going to take a little break right now.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we'll finally get into Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned.
I'm excited.
All right. Welcome back.
Hey, we made it.
Now, we just went through the exhaustive life of Ayn Rand. It's time to talk about Atlas Shrugged.
Okay. No, I'm actually very excited about it. I know that in this process, you and I, every time we've seen each other, because we were reading it at different times, And so I would come to you and be like, I cannot believe what just happened in this book. It is absolutely, and then you would come back and
Yeah, because I had read Atlas Shrugged in 2020, and I was like, Ron, why don't you read it and we'll do this? So he read it, and you mentioned like in December of last year, like, oh, I'm almost done. I'm about to finish it. I was like, oh, I better reread it. Better like.
I had the hardest 50 pages. The last 50 pages of that book are the hardest thing I've ever had to force myself to read.
Yeah. So I picked up another copy for me to start reading it. And at first I started like, yeah, I'm going to take notes. I'm going to do this. Probably like 100 pages in, I was just like, oh my God. Like I had forgotten how poorly written this was.
Yeah.
And you had been like complaining like, oh.
Yeah, it's just terribly written.
And then it got to the point where it's like the philosophy was now really starting to because the philosophy doesn't really kick in until maybe like 200 pages in.
Mm-hmm.
And once it got there, I was like, oh, this is wow.
Yeah.
Now, you know what, Ron? I now completely understand.
I remember when you came to me and apologized for having me read this book. Like, I understand what you're going through now, man. I'm really sorry. Because I was just exasperated every time I would come to you and like, there's just no way these people exist. There's no way any characters like this ever exist in any reality.
You wouldn't even say hi to me. You just immediately went like, this book.
Can you believe?
And like, I had a fuzzy memory of it.
Sure.
But then actually having to reread it, which I even found a audiobook on YouTube to help me reread it so I can listen to it like 1.5
you mentioned that.
font or speed. And I eventually had to up it to 1.7, and then I upped it to 2.0 because I was like, I need to finish this book. And at some point, it does get to it where it's just like, all right, you've already, okay, let's, like that last 50 pages, I literally just like pressed play on the audio and then like I did dishes.
Yeah.
Because as much as I wanted to sit down and like scrutinize it and underline things.
And it really is the most worthless 50 pages of this entire book. Like it really is like the way this book ends is so ridiculous. So outrageously ridiculous that it just seems like, well, then why did I even bother here? This isn't an ending.
With that, let's briefly do our best to summarize the story of Atlas Shrugged, so that way when we get into more of the discussion.
Okay, great.
So if you have not read the book, I'm not going to tell you a time to skip because we don't want you to read this book.
I would prefer to. So no one
just
read
listen.
This book.
Don't skip this. We're saving you.
Absolutely, Cliff Notes this. If you really, really need to know what's in this book, so it's not forbidden knowledge. It's not the Necronomicon. It's not some like lofty thing that I have to know what's in it now. Like no, you can easily go to a wiki that just like outlines the plot. And just like, and get that.
Yeah.
As long as you know.
Exactly. So chapter 1, we open up on Eddie Willers. Eddie Willers is the assistant to the vice president of Taggart Transcontinental. Here we will hear a phrase throughout the book called who is John Galt?
Who is John Galt? A phrase no one would use.
Yeah. She tried to very much make this like,
it's a common idiom. It's something everybody says. It's just what we all say when we're faced with a hopeless problem that has no solution. Who is John Galt? Why would I bother? And it's just like the dumbest slogan.
Even Ayn Rand would probably agree with us. Or it's like, yeah, that kind of made a mistake on that.
Yeah, right.
Because I deleted it, but I was actually keeping a list of how many times John Galt is mentioned or that phrase is used. And until the third part, it's like the first chapter, it's 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything is like once per chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So like you are just hearing it constantly.
The book wants you to give this some kind of importance.
Yeah.
That it doesn't deserve.
So we meet Eddie Willers. Eddie Willers, I feel bad about, but I'll hold on about he's the only person I actually sympathize with in this book.
He is the true cuck of this book.
Yeah.
If I had to put a word to it.
Yeah, he is totally. So here we meet the main character, Dagny Taggart. Dagny Taggart is the vice president of operations of Taggart Transcontinental. This book is all about railroads.
Why did this train stop?
She's the vice president.
I'm the vice president of moving trains.
Her brother is the president of Taggart, and that is Jim. Jim is going to be one of the looters.
He's a bloated, sweaty, greasy-skinned man who doesn't understand why Dagny is so bothered by whether trains move or not, so long as the public good is thought of.
That's always public good.
Yeah.
Essentially, it just introduces those characters. Chapter 2 is we meet Hank Reardon, the other protagonist.
Yes. One of the first of many angular-faced, lean, tall men.
Oh, yeah. So Hank Reardon invents a metal called Reardon metal that has this bluish green tint. Also, Ayn Rand's favorite color.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Teal?
Yeah.
Okay. I get it, kind of. Probably came from when she lived in California.
Maybe.
The Southwest will do that to you.
So Hank Reardon is surrounded by essentially parasites. Mother, brother, and wife.
All terrible people, and specifically written to be terrible people.
Exactly. Leech onto him, like... They constantly just like, you don't do enough. What do you do? And Hank is very much just like, I'm building my business. He builds steel. And this Reardon metal is stronger than steel. It's stronger than anything. It's going to revolutionize the world.
He's a metallurgist.
Yeah.
And the thing about the family, I just that always irritates me is that, you know, nothing's ever good enough for them. And it's the way she writes these characters is that they're specifically bad people. Like, there are no good people in this book. The main characters are supposed to be good people, but they're not even really all that good. They're just perfect specimens of humanity.
With that, Chapter 3 is essentially introducing some of the villains. You get Orrin Boyle, who is a rival steel. You get James Taggart, who is in charge of Taggart's Continental. Paul Larkin, who is, quote-unquote, a friend of Hank Reardon.
Mm-hmm.
And you get Wesley Mooch, who is originally Hank Reardon's Washington man.
Wesley Mooch.
Yeah. And right now, they're just kind of setting up kind of the initial threads of the San Sebastian line of just like, we got to build, Taggart needs to build this railroad and to get to these mines that another character that will be introduced to has a copper mine.
A copper mine.
That is going to produce millions.
Right. But there's also a shadow consortium of industrialists headed by Orrin Boyle with his man in Washington, Wesley Mooch, that are they have an agreement, like a kind of an American kind of robber baron type of agreement that they won't impinge on each other's kind of territory and on each other's industries. So there's already kind of it sets up a case for corruption.
Last probably main chapter I'll actually talk about is Chapter 4, mainly because this introduces now our next protagonist, Francisco de Angonia.
Francisco de Angonia.
He
another angular, beautiful man.
But he's from South America, so he's got a nice tan.
And he speaks with an accent.
He comes from this wealthy copper mine industry. He was
scion of the copper industry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So one of the wealthiest copper industries in the world, the wealthiest copper industry in the world, and he is the heir apparent. He is the heir and current head of that industry.
So Dagny and Francisco have had a relationship, and this chapter, I think 40 pages of this relationship. And it's like, all right, you can kind of speed this up a little
right.
bit.
Their youth.
Yeah.
When they're like young. And,
yeah,
right. So they grew up together. And actually, Eddie Willers was a part of that.
Yeah.
And so was James Taggart.
But James was kind of excluded.
Yes, right. But Eddie Willers was a part of their group. It was like a trio of Francisco, Dagny, and Eddie Willers who would go off and dream their dreams of doing big things. This is also where you find out that Dagny Taggart knew she was going to be the head of Taggart Transcontinental when she was 9 years old.
Yeah, she immediately knew. And Eddie Willers was right there like, yes.
Super happy to help her. Oh, absolutely. Anything you need, Dagny.
We meet those characters, and then we now get a little more of kind of the politics of this era. Because here, Francisco has essentially become this playboy in life. But there's a reason. Check your premises.
Check your premises.
That's another
Ooh,
ongoing.
Check your premises. Continually be checking your premises.
But for the antagonists, they are establishing the anti-dog-eat-dog rule. The idea that you cannot have monopolies in certain regions.
Okay, so this is the shadow.
This would be the shadow.
Yeah, the shadow organization, the shadow agreement.
Yeah, the National Alliance of Railroads wants to establish an anti-dog-eat-dog rule, essentially saying that if you have business in California, like if you still steal business in California, then no one else can come in and like eat up your customers, which is just like, I don't think any business would actually agree to this in real life. But I also see why like the bigwigs, like Jim Taggart would be on this, is because then it prevents competition from taking over his monopoly.
Right.
So it's one of those things that...
I mean, they already go into it a little bit, I think. And you know, like this is all very loose in my memory now, even though I just read this like probably, I think I finished, 4 or 5 months ago. So I've just recently read...
Oh.
December, right? January. January, I think, is when I finished it.
Yeah, you finished it in like January.
But I know that there is he is experiencing some pressure from competition.
The Phoenix Durango line.
Yeah, the Phoenix Durango line. Yeah, from out of Colorado.
Yeah.
Right.
And so Jim wants this because then it would prevent Phoenix Durango from gaining competition. And obviously they promote all this as if it's like, this is for the public good, that competition in local areas would stunt transportation.
Now, this sets up the idea that anyone who suggests that anything is for the public good has ulterior motives.
Yeah.
The big problem I have with kind of everything throughout this book is that there's no one who is actually working for the public good. Every character who claims they're so obvious, their facetiousness is so very obvious that they're not really into it for the public good. They're just talking out of both sides of their mouth about the public good and wanting it. It sets up this whole notion that goes throughout the entire book.
My issue with it is I couldn't tell if they are like 100% stalwarts who like believed in the public good, or if they knew that the public good was a good line to give. That was my...
It's the way she writes these characters, right? The descriptions she gives of them, the things that they say, the kind of empty words that they use to enforce their positions. Like that tells you right off the bat that they're disingenuous, right? So anybody who wants something for the public good obviously doesn't really want something for the public good, right? They're also, like I said, James Taggart, right? Greasy-skinned, bloated. The way she describes the physical descriptions of each of these characters are just, they're really over the top with like how much what she wants you to think of these people. Like you don't see an actual socialist, right? You don't see an actual, like you don't see an actual politician who's like, I really just think that there are people starving in this country and we really need to do something about it. And if there's a way that we can move production trains along, right? If there's a way, especially when it comes to things like transportation, moving trains. This whole book is about trains, right? So if it's about moving food from places where it's grown and processed to people, right, then there should be people who are like, no, really, we need to, there are people starving. There are people, that need this food. There are people that need this machinery. There are people that like need this stuff. Like there is an actual public good. This book just doesn't believe in it.
What it sounds like, they are very much like in it for themselves, but the public good is a good
so long as they end up in the top.
Francisco de Anconia has been building up this mine, the San Sebastian mines. This has been the talk for the last 5 chapters.
Oh, Mexico. In Mexico.
And right now, everybody's trying to pile in. They're putting money into it. Like James Taggart has invested, only to realize that the entire thing is a scam.
It's a sham.
Francisco de Anconia, I think this was a little smartly done. Like, I would actually give credit. It was just like the way he was able, like, I did everything for the public good. I hired people, they have jobs. but I just hired whoever. Like,
And at the time, Mexico is now like the people's state of Mexico.
Yes.
Like, it's important to note that
almost everybody except for the United States is the people's
state of Portugal. This people's state of like governments are just nationalizing, like their governments are just popping up communist all over the place.
Francisco de Anconia did this as a kind of rebuke of malicious compliance.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of he maliciously followed the idea of the good public good, that he bought a worthless mine, gave people jobs, built or used whatever supplies he could get because it promoted jobs. And when Mexico nationalized the San Sebastian mines, they found out it was worthless.
It was worthless.
It destroyed everybody.
Yeah.
Who invested.
He went out of his way to prove a point, right? He devastated an economy of a country and ruined its people to prove a point about what was it? What was your words?
Malicious compliance.
Yeah, malicious compliance.
Yeah.
He used malicious compliance as a principle, right? to ruin an economy. Because he can do that. It's fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah. And so from there, essentially, that's the first story of this.
Oh my God, buckle up, everybody.
Is the San Sebastian mines.
Mm-hmm.
This sets up future Francisco de Anconia stuff, but it's also just like no businessman, at least as far as I can understand, would ever invest in a project without first like investigating it. Like, even if they're friends, I would assume that a smart businessman would first make sure that there's foundation.
You're talking about like James Taggart or all the people who invested into it? Yeah, exactly. There's no vetting.
They all just trust, because the way Francisco de Anconia is built up is that he's a self-made man. He's never lost anything. Like, he's never lost a battle.
He continues to never lose anything throughout the book.
And so here, people are just throwing money at him, believing that he is a safe bet. Real businessmen would go, you got to crash at some point. Like,
yeah. A little bit of vetting, a little bit of like reading up on stuff. That stuff. I mean, there's transparencies built into those kind of trades, those kind of deals. There's like things you can do to see whether this is a safe investment or not. But everyone just goes along with it. Well, of course, if this wealthy playboy says it's okay,
yeah, then it's perfectly good.
Please give me 20,000 shares.
So the next chapter, because this book is filled with names and people. The next one is The Dinner Party, where we meet Dr. Pritchett, who is, if I remember, he's psychology, and he essentially is like,
right.
He essentially just goes, thinking is pointless. There's no
Why
rational
bother?
is over. And then you have Balf Eubank.
Balf Eubank. Oh boy, that's gonna pop right out there.
Yeah, Balf
Eubank.
Who essentially,
he's a propagandist.
His books never sold, and right now they're talking about this next bill. So the anti-doggy dog is kind of out of. It's all right. It's hold a hat now. Now we got the equalization bill, or equalization of opportunity, which essentially is a introduction bill that would prevent a person from owning more than one business concern. So it's antitrust, essentially.
Yeah.
And here, this dinner party is just all. Everybody going like, this is good. Okay, so Dr. Pritchett is head of the Department of Philosophy, the Patrick Henry University.
Oh, right, the Patrick Henry University.
So the idea is to control men to be free. Nothing is knowable. Oh yeah, this was it him, this douche, where it's just like, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, where it's just like, remember the bridge, like the bridge that gets into Colorado that they have
the John Galt line.
No, yeah, that the John Galt line has to do.
The Reardon Metal Bridge.
Where it's just like, I think it's him, Dr. Pritchett, who's just like, because the bridge collapses at some point in the story, and he's like, what bridge? Was there even ever a bridge? We've never. It's just
what's a bridge?
Yeah.
How do you define a bridge?
And it's just like, dude.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much eye rolling going on in this book. It's like. It's the way these characters are painted, the way these characters are drawn is so over the top, right? It's like it's to be laughable, right? The whole notion of like, oh geez, this bridge just collapsed and like 35 people died, and we can't get goods from one side. really, what is a bridge?
Yeah, what is it?
How would you even typify a bridge? Do people really need to eat? Why would we bother with, it's so stupid, so dumb. No one would say these things.
Essentially, the parties are saying, yeah, we're all for the equalization of opportunity. Like Balfour Eubank's reasoning is essentially that no one book should essentially like thrive or like make massive success. He essentially thinks that the equalization of opportunity should limit on literature the sales to 10,000 copies for all books, which I would argue that might be a good thing for like used books stores and.
I would, not terrible.
His books.
I mean, it'd probably help libraries a lot.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True. It would also help like the forests.
Yes, right, exactly.
But his books never sold more than 3,000 copies. So like, it's clear this is a person who's like, yeah, we should do this. Mainly because it would never affect them.
Because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
And also as a kind of like a retaliatory measure.
Yeah. And he would say, because I had to write it down, plot is a primitive vulgarity in literature. And it's like, who in reality would ever say that?
Yeah, right. Yes. None of these things that people say, no one would say. Right? These characters don't exist. The way they think doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? These aren't human beings. These aren't people.
And I also want to emphasize, like, every conversation is about something that's happening in this story directly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a dinner party, and they're talking about this bill, the equalization of opportunity. I was like, if you're at a dinner party, politics might be
a thing you don't talk about. I mean, I get it. Like, I've seen lots of movies where like the men always stand up, they have cigars and talk about how things are going in the robber baron business.
True, but none of these conversations are just like.
First of all, they're not even conversations.
True.
They're like diatribes.
That's true.
From one person to another.
But I'm just saying, like, you don't get a sense of their like actual humanity. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, did you see the show? Like, yeah, I thought it was good.
None of these people are well-rounded characters.
Yeah.
None of these characters, none of the people in this book they're the most one-dimensional kind of aspects of whatever it is Ayn Rand wants them to be. And the book impresses upon you what they should be, what you should think about them, right? So you don't actually get to make up your own mind. She's just already told you. The narration tells you.
Right now, chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10 are essentially now Dagny Taggart has decided to use Reardon metal to build this new line to Chicago to Colorado.
Give me 8,000 tons of that Reardon metal.
And as a joke or as a reference, she decides to name this new line the John Galt line.
Because she can't stand the phrase, who is John Galt?
Yeah, she can't stand it. She hates it. And
well, if you can't find a solution to a problem that has no solution, then you're just not worthwhile. I'm just gonna keep every time. It was so weird because like going through this book, like reading this book, every time Dagny Taggart would speak, that's the voice that goes off in my head. It's just basically, like, well, I'm just gonna have another cigarette over here and just tell you how wrong you are.
She goes to the State Science Institute where we meet Dr. Stadler for the first time. I have some sympathy for. He seems like someone who at least has a guilty conscience.
But he's also a fuddy-duddy.
He is.
Like he's very, like he's only concerned with science and only concerned with logic. And again, another one of these like one-dimensional characters where all they care about is just that one thing and everything else, and just oblivious to everything else around him, and can't even be bothered with everything else, can't even be bothered with the effects or consequences of their research.
Well, he also focused on, because he's the head of the State Science Institute, mm-hmm. He very much like would bow down to do anything to save the institute. Like that was his baby. Like that.
That was I think that's my other issue with him, is that his only real concern was the institute and the name and reputation of the institute.
True.
He was very, very big about that.
But I think that I consider that a fault. Like,
oh no, absolutely, it's a fault. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did
No, I
don't have a lot of good things to say about this book. No, so just assume that everything I say about it is that it's bad.
No, I just want to say, like, there's a modicum of like almost like character development, almost like
sure.
like
He does
and Eddie
feel
Willers.
something for something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Him and Eddie Willers. Because I actually have I understand that. When it comes to Dagny and Hank Rearden, it's just like they're kind of similar, but they're so. What's your foundation for like philosophy?
Right.
Like they kind of just do things.
Right.
Because,
for the sake of doing things. So what is the motivation?
Yeah.
Right. What motivates them to do anything outside of their principles to get a thing done? And especially because these are superhumans, right? These are angelic super beings, right? They can do anything that they want. Why do the thing that they're choosing to do?
That's why I give Dr. Stadler a little.
Yeah, sure.
This also kind of gets me to one of my other issues is it's small, but like I had to write it in my notes and I put it all in bold. Is this metal good or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because throughout this story, we hear that Rearden metal is bad, it's corrosive, we don't know, it's a new metal, we don't know enough about it, and yet people seem to be buying it.
But it's also like there is an active campaign on behalf of Oren Boyle, right, who this is a new metal that has the potential to destroy his business, his industry of steelmaking. So he and a number of other people are, so the press and, whoever he controls, right, have a smear campaign against this Rearden metal.
You can have a smear campaign, but to me it's just like the State Science Institute came out saying it's not good.
But he's also influenced.
True, but why are people still buying it then? How come the smear campaign isn't working?
Right.
That's
That's true.
If it truly isn't working, then why are people buying up Rearden metal
like crazy? And it becomes so popular.
And it's also businessmen, I would say, are smart in marketing. Mm-hmm. Hank Rearden is one of the dumbest.
Terrible.
In terms of PR.
Doesn't care to do it.
Yeah,
not interested in promoting himself or his own metal.
And of course you would fail then. Yeah. If you're not going to promote it.
Right. Yeah, does nothing to defend his metal. And I'm sure that a lot of people who, hear this is well, that's the point, is that it stands on its own merits. This metal stands on its own merits. It doesn't need defending.
Sure, but
which is why he wouldn't defend it, and I think it's explained that way in the book, is that he doesn't feel like he should have to.
But you have to.
Yeah, right. No, it's just the way business works.
Yeah,
yeah, you got to get your name out there. You got to get especially if you have a new product, an innovative thing that can revolutionize and change an industry.
The best real world example I can immediately think of is the current wars, Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Edison was a businessman.
He was good at promoting himself.
He was very good at promoting.
Yeah.
And Nikola Tesla was Hank Rearden would have been Nikola Tesla.
Would have been Nikola Tesla.
Would have been I don't need.
He's mostly interested in innovating and creating new things and figuring things out than he is with promoting any of his inventions.
Exactly. So the legislature passes the Equalization of Opportunity Bill. This forces Hank Rearden to sell his coal mines to Paul Larkin. So here now things are starting to get much more constricted because the Equalization of Opportunity isn't just making sure people cannot own multiple businesses. It's also the fact that certain products have to go to certain people. So Oren Boyle, who's also a steel magnate, raw resources need to go to him just as much as Hank Rearden. So there's this equalization of resources.
So it keeps the Rearden metal from destroying Oren Boyle's business.
Yeah.
So it basically it stops an unhealthy competition because there's an obvious superior product, and so the superior product gets punished. So that the inferior product can continue to exist.
Yeah. Through all this, Hank Rearden begins selling a bunch of stuff. Wesley Mooch is promoted to the assistant coordinator of the Bureau of Economic Planning and National Resources.
What kind of government is this?
Yeah.
Who knows? What kind of committee is that? What room in the Capitol does this organization meet in?
And everybody's dense, Daggert, Hank, Francisco, because they're just it's the looters who are doing this. The looters do. It's no, other businessmen did this.
Yeah.
If the point of competition in business is to be the most successful, why wouldn't you use government?
Right. Oren Boyle is just doing what any business would do, which is to take advantage of government for their own benefit.
And isn't that technically selfish?
Yes. Right.
Like
exactly.
If anything, he knew,
outsmarted you.
Yeah. If he knew a competitor was going to beat him, you then find the third pillar of business or regulation,
right?
And you try to infect it. You try to take control of it. That's what that cohort did.
But in this book, that's disingenuous.
That's true. That is actually part of objectivism.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention the idea is make money morally.
Yes,
that's one of the or honorably. So here,
what a contradiction.
So here, there's the idea. Yeah. So that's one aspect of it was just it's got to be done on honorable grounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
But again, it's in the eye of the beholder. Oren Boyle, probably thought this was an honorable way to do it.
Sure.
Because
it didn't break any laws. What ethics did he breach?
Yeah. He used the same avenue as Hank Rearden had.
Right.
But because Hank was so oblivious to politics and government.
Yep. Didn't want anything to do with it. So that was his blind spot.
So now there's this campaign against Hank Rearden Metal. People are against it. You have the EO bill. And Hank and Dagny Taggart work together, decide to say, hey, Rearden Metal is going to be the metal for my line, for the John Galt line. Once it's up and operational, people will then have a change of heart, and we will destroy the equalization bill.
Yeah.
The EO bill.
But she can't do that because of the equalization and opportunity bill, right? That's why she has to go start her own. So she has to leave, basically, Taggart.
I think the reason why she left, or she didn't really leave, but they became a subsidiary, was because all the looters are very much just something needs to be done. Well, you do it. I can't do it. I can't.
Yeah, nobody has the balls to.
Yeah. And so, Daggart is very much just Dagny.
Dagny.
Combine them.
Dagny Taggart.
Dagny was just she's very much the decision maker. Well, let's do this. And so nobody wants to take responsibility.
Right.
So they create this subsidiary to essentially make Dagny the president of the John Galt line. So that way, if this goes belly up, she'll take the blame.
Taggart Transcontinental has, they bear no responsibility in this.
Exactly.
Right? They reap all the benefits if it works, but can,
shift the blame if it fails.
Can shift the blame if it fails.
So, yeah. So they begin making all that. They begin working everything. They get everything up and going. The line is built, and they do their first test run, and that's 10 pages of them just going through the countryside.
Unbelievable. It's crazy. The way it's written is it's the one kind of high point of the book where they're actually doing it. They're making it work, and who cares what anyone says. So the press are all there, and Hank Rearden and Dagny Taggart are sharing long, meaningful looks at each other as they're accomplishing their life's ambition of the moment, which is to drive this train across a bridge made of Rearden metal.
Yeah. And they are so in the thrall of it.
Moving in a quick train and a fast train.
And when they get to Colorado, you have Ellis Wyatt, who is a oil magnate in Colorado. He houses them, and that night the passion is just overwhelming. That Daggart and Hank
have the most hateful sex
that
anyone's ever had.
It's. Because the way it was written, I wrote in my notes, the language is really intense when it comes to sex, almost as if sex is only about unleashing hatred and pain.
The way I put it was the person who wrote this hates sex, do not like sex, and they do not or at the very least have very conflicting issues or ideas of sex, right? Because it doesn't seem like there's nothing tender or even connective or intimate about any of it.
They're both just...
It's cringy to kind of read because it's just I don't know if I'd enjoy that.
Then the next chapter 9, it starts with mentioning that Dagny like had to clean up blood, and I was like, oh, so that's your kink. Like this is so they just did 50 Shades,
Right.
And it was just like, oh, okay, they went intense.
Yeah. Right.
Like I'm sure Ellis Wyatt like woke up in the middle of the night to hear their scream. It's like, oh, what?
It's just them having, they're just having a good time.
Oh, they're just canoodling.
They're just a canoodling. That's a real hard canoodling, man. That's like a real hard canoodling.
With that, I'm not even going to bring up Cheryl. She's so...
It's so dumb.
She's pointless.
Because it's supposed to be, the idea is that here's a regular person. Okay, you've seen all these industrialists and magnates, important people, right? People high up in government or whatever. But here's just a shop girl.
Yeah, here's your one little shop girl.
Here's your one little normal person. And what happens? She is instantly elevated into, because James Taggart takes an interest. And it's not even clear why he's taken an interest in her, except maybe guilt. Maybe
I always saw it as he needed someone to give him recognition.
That was what so there's a little bit of guilt, and there's a little bit of wanting to be wanted, right? So wanting some kind of recognition and wanting to be attracted, right? Or wanting to be attractive to someone, wanting to be important. Because he's not important, right? He's compared to his sister, he is so very unimportant, right? And so he wants to be important to somebody. And it might as well be this dumb shopkeeper, this dumb shop girl, right, from a 5 and dime store that he just happens to run into, and then takes out for a fantasy night on the town.
Fantasy night. And, of course, her dialogue is all the same, of just like, I came here to make it on my own. And
she's got big dreams. She believes in the meritocracy.
This would never happen in real life, of just like a shop girl, like, so what are you doing? Like, oh, I came here from Oklahoma to reach the big dream because I wanted to do it on my own. I'm not going to...
She's going to build her own empire. Well, what if I just marry you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She kills herself at the end, so...
And actually, that is like... Okay, because if we're going to get into that, like the interesting thing, so we might as well just, like, this character exists for this, specifically.
For this specific reason.
So that she can kill herself. Like, she exists specifically so that she can be the wide-eyed, normal, common person who finally sees the heinous corruption that's going on all around her and everything that's wrong with the world and what the unification board has wrought on the country. And she's so disillusioned and so unbelievably shattered by what she is complicit to, what she sees herself as complicit to, that she just walks off a pier and dies. Yeah. It's really the only reason that she exists.
Yeah, just to be that, like, oh, here are my heroes.
Yes.
And once she realizes what they're actually doing.
Oh.
And their real intentions and and once the veil is revealed or pulled away.
Yeah. Then she just, like, nopes out.
Yeah. And nopes out. With that, they then, Hank and Dagny essentially start this tryst. They go on this vacation. They find the 20th Century Motor Company, find this piece of hunk and junk.
Where they have the time to do all of this, by the way? I mean, they're both very important people of their industries, but they take like a good, 3 weeks or something to just drive around Wisconsin?
They find this hunk of junk, and they realize that it is this revolutionary motor.
Instantly recognize it, too.
Yeah, instantly recognize it. That even though it's like broken and shattered, recognize it that it is a self-fueling motor.
A perpetual motion machine, essentially.
And it's just like, oh, we have to find the man who created it. And so the first story of this, I guess the third now, because we did San Sebastian Lines is story 1. Building Reardon, the John Galt line is story 2. Now story 3, which essentially carries us through the rest of the book, is finding John Galt.
Yes.
Of course, we don't know yet that it is John Galt.
And the motor only gets brought up like intermittently, every once in a while. Like it gets forgotten about for a really long time.
So here, this is really all the synopsis you need because the first 200 pages of this book, I would argue, is actually a good story. In that you have a woman, and even though Anne was anti-feminist, you have a proto-feminist character.
Strong female lead.
Who is doing her best to prove her worth by building this line. And you have Hank Reardon, who's trying to get this steel off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel is an acceptable...
Kind of, right? You know, like I get what you're saying, that it's like, okay, good, we have a start of a story, but we also don't have believable characters. We don't have multidimensional characters in that there are no flaws. All of the main characters are completely flawless superhumans.
Yes.
Right? So there are no demons that they have to fight. There is no internal struggles. There really is hardly any external struggles because they go ahead and do whatever it is they want to do anyway.
Yeah. Then can I say like the bones of the story?
Sure. As a kind of plot, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a goal.
Because if anything, it's like, all right, as a reader, you're at least like gearing towards something,
Mm-hmm.
getting that line built.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, it becomes about this motor, and immediately the next chapter 10, she goes on this search, and she meets 3 people who essentially say the same thing. And it's like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that I'm poor. It's not my fault that this company broke down. It's not my... And it's just like...
So the dumb hillbillies in Wisconsin...
Just answer the question. Like, were you here? It's like, it's not my fault. It's like, no, but were you...
I didn't do this.
Like, when I was talking to others, I'd always make this joke, like, no one is direct. Which is weird that this is a philosophy that's about being direct.
No one actually answers a question. None of what anybody says in this book is dialogue, or could be considered dialogue. It's all philosophical exposition.
Exactly. And what annoyed me, it's like what I would say to others. It's like you can't get a direct answer. You could ask someone like, "What time is it?" It's not my fault that what
do I know about time? And how if they keep changing the time like that, then how am I supposed to keep track of it? I lost my hourglass years ago.
So it's like no matter what. So that became the mystery, and then it kind of falls away when attacks on businesses that causes Ellis Wyatt to blow up his oil fields.
Yeah. So essentially, he doesn't want to comply. And he's like the first one.
A series of directives.
Yes, and that's the other thing. Okay, so no government like this, like just especially because this is supposed to be America, and a lot of I think the criticism and what I've read about this book around this book is that it's some kind of dystopia, but it takes place in America at a time. There are some obvious tells. It takes place in America at a time when coal-burning railroad engines still exist, right? But the majority of the industry prefers to use diesel.
They have telephone lines.
They have telephone lines, right? So they can communicate. So there's
pseudo 1950s.
Yes, right. Well, or I would say probably 1930s or 40s.
Okay, so that'd be the range.
Because the collapse that occurs, you can say, kind of coincides with the Great Depression.
Okay.
Right. Is kind of how I was reading it, was that like, oh, well, this would be kind of the Great Depression. And instead of the actual cause of the Great Depression, which was like, runaway free market capitalism, it's, all these directives from a government that you aren't told anything about. Right. Who's the president? Where is Congress?
Yeah.
What are the branches of this government? Where's the judiciary? Where's so all you know is there's one creep named Wesley Mooch, right? Who's on this
collective,
who's on this board, the Unification Board, and you get another guy later on who's like, I'm the head of things, but he doesn't have a title. He's just the
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, Mr. Thompson.
He's head of state.
Head of state. Right. So what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no like president. There's no prime minister. There's no, you don't know this amorphous government that just issues these directives, and you're all expected just to follow that.
Part 2 of this book.
Okay, let's back to the book.
Part 2 of this book, because I get into this because by this point now there's no reason to go chapter by chapter.
Yeah, sure.
Part 2 is Dagny has essentially just stopped investigating who built the motor.
Yeah.
Now,
it gets put way in the back.
Now for the next 10 chapters, we just see the crumbling of government, the crumbling of the economy.
Because of these directives.
Because what's happening now is there's this mysterious figure, Dagny calls them the Destroyer, who is coming in and taking kind of brilliant minds in certain industries and stealing them away. People are just disappearing because of all these directives that
Heads
are calling...
of all these industries, friends of Hank Rearden's and Dagny Taggart's.
And so with that, Dagny is doing everything she can to stop the destroyer. She's trying to visit people, and unfortunately, like I think it was a Ken Daniger, who was just like she
just got there,
just got there
as the destroyer was leaving, and Ken Daniger had already made up his mind that it was very convincing whatever it was that person said, and I can't tell you about it, but I'm out of here.
Every now and then there's a little reference to the mystery, like the cigarette with the dollar sign.
Mm-hmm.
Dollar signs became big after this.
She's tracking this person down now, so she's like ends up in a diner where she meets what's his name?
The philosopher Hugh Axton.
Yeah, right.
Who used to be a philosopher, professor.
Yeah, but now he's working at a greasy spoon
because he refuses to give his mind to
the
government or whatever.
So there's little clues of this like mystery that she's just like following along, but at the same time she's diligently trying to keep the railroad going, and Hank Rearden is also diligently trying to keep his metalworks going, and in spite of these directives.
Because of the affair that Dagny and Hank are having, Lillian, Hank's wife, finds out about this, starts blackmailing him, eventually tells the government, and Hank, not wanting to let the public know about this affair, caves into the looters, and he gives up his Rearden medal
to the government. A thing that he swore he would never do.
Yeah, but he did it in order to essentially protect Dagny, which is very unselfish.
Very unselfish.
So, Hank Rearden is on trial.
Oh, right.
Hank Rearden,
that was a hilarious...
Okay, this is first. So Hank Rearden is on trial for violating the EO, for conducting illegal business.
Transactions.
Yeah.
So he's selling Rearden metal to various people because he doesn't care about any of these directives. So he's breaking, a law that it can't be enforced anyway, and he knows it can't be enforced. So that's his whole point, is that like you can't enforce these laws, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do whatever I want to do.
So at the trial, which again is not set up like any real trial.
No.
He gives this big speech. From what I understand, it's something that also happens like in the Fountainhead, or...
I wouldn't remember. It's been like I was probably 22 when I read that thing. The thing about these books is that like I expect to probably forget a lot of this book in about 5 years.
I read it in 2020 and I forgot it in like 2-3 years.
That's right. You did just read it recently.
Yeah. Now this section, this event, makes me question the people's actual emotions, like what side they're on. Because Rearden gives this big impassioned speech, like, I earned this money, this is my business, I have every right to hold on to it. And the crowd there applauds.
Yeah.
They all cheer it. And it's like, wait.
Anytime you hear from a common person, like a taxi driver or something, they're always like, thank you for saying that. I needed that. Man, and I can't, it's about time somebody actually stood up to those bastards.
Which begs the question, do they vote?
Yes. Is this a democracy?
Yeah. Because no way in hell would they have allowed this legislature to go this extreme.
That's the thing. It's like there's no democratic structure here.
Yeah.
And so who is Congress? Who are the people that are passing these laws? A government agency doesn't just, they can pass rules, but things for something to be illegal, a law has to be passed for it. Right. There can be rules for how things are organized. And again, I'm not an expert either. So this is falling apart. But it's not how laws are made, and it's not how regulations get passed.
That occurs. There's more failure at the steel mine. Colorado, for some reason, is like the ground zero of everything falling apart. According to this book, it seems like there's only like 4 states. There's California, there's New York, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and like Colorado.
Yeah,
maybe
right.
Florida.
And not even Minnesota. It's like Wisconsin, I think, is where they find the motor. It's like a motor works in Wisconsin. They're driving through Wisconsin, which is beautiful country.
So they So now because everything's like breaking down, the John Galt line also has to be dismantled in order to shore
use
up
the rail.
to use the rails.
Because they can't get enough metal, they can't get enough, and it draws like the book draws kind of a children's picture of how supply chains work, right? So like the copper, we need the copper, and you need coal for this, but they can't get the coal for this, so so they can't get the copper to make the steel. They need iron for the steel that comes from this, and so it draws this kind of like this connective line for why everything starts to break down. And of course, if we can't make all of these things, then you can't have toasters, and you can't have like it extrapolates into like all of the other aspects of life. Which we just went through a pandemic where it's like, okay, supply chains were a little hindered, but I don't remember starving.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And the only thing that caused a lot of problems is because people began hoarding.
Yes, because of hoarding. Yeah. So if you couldn't get something, from a grocery store, it was because people were buying all of it.
By this point, things are collapsing so bad that the moochers and the looters can only think of one way to prevent a total collapse, and that is by initiating Directive 10289, which completely freezes everything. No one is allowed to quit. No one is allowed to leave their job. Everyone has to stay at their job. Everything stops.
Yeah, this was probably the most, it's the most mind-bogglingly kind of, it's the most confusing directive.
Bullet pointed the 8 points of this directive.
Okay.
People cannot be fired from their jobs. People will be assigned jobs. Owners are not allowed to leave their jobs. All patents will be handed over to the government. No new inventions. Everyone has to produce the same amount of product. All houses must spend the same amount each year. All wages are frozen. All cases will be handled by a board. And
it's a children's view, a children's idea of communism.
My note is the death birth rate would immediately create problems with this.
Yes, right.
Like you get the reason why like we would have like unemployment. One reason is because there's more births than there are deaths, meaning that it's just a natural rise in the amount of labor supply. And like you have this, you're saying everybody's frozen. You can't leave your job.
Yeah, right. And entirely unenforceable, because they don't even mention like anybody going to jail over any of this, or like everyone's terrified. Right. There's a lot of like actual terror. Everyone's like, oh, God, oh, no. But, a lot of, well, nobody told me that I needed to do this, so I didn't do it. Yeah. And, so there's a lot of that. Like it immediately falls into this kind of like this dumb mentality of what I would consider like kind of public workers.
Well, but I'm also like, that's objectivism. Like here you have workers who refuse to give their mind up to their job. And so they just become those automatons who just like, now what do I do? Now what do I do?
Yep. You have to order me to do something or I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah. And like, wait, so that's like isn't that's subjectivism for workers then? Is the idea is I will not do work unless you tell me to do it. So like every day, if let's just say you're a janitor and every day you have to mop the floor, then that means it's just like, all right, clock in. All right, boss, what do you want me to do? Like, mop the floor.
Mop the floor.
Yeah. It's like, okay. All right, done. What do you want me to do? Clean the counters. And then, like, every day you do that. Right? That's objectivism, right?
I mean,
like,
is that...
or at least that's...
You're going to have to explain that to me.
Because to me, the idea is... Or if anything, if it's not objectivism, it's the strike. Like Hugh Axton...
Okay, yeah.
Said, I'm not going to give my mind to the government, so I'm going to become a burger flipper.
Right.
Like even John Galt is just like, I'm not giving my mind. He becomes a worker.
It seems petty, is what it seems like. But like you already know what your job is. Your job has been explained to you when you're hired. And so, and if you're trained to do a particular thing, right, then you should already know what your job is. So you show up at work every day,
okay,
and you apply your skills and your mind to a thing.
But then you'll never go beyond.
But if I just showed up and said like, I'm not doing anything until you tell me,
Okay, all right. I can understand the pettiness. I guess I'm thinking of it's coming back to my mind. The train workers is just like, I don't want to be responsible for this.
Okay, yeah.
Because I don't like they won't go beyond what like their job description says because one, workers can get heavily punished for
how it's not explained.
Yeah, and with that, like Dagny can flaunt the system because she's rich enough and famous
Absolutely.
enough.
And that's the other thing is that like no one who is wealthy in this book suffers anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Even after the economy has collapsed and nobody can find anything in stores and people are starving or whatever, they're all still having lavish dinners at some, resort.
Because here, like the next chapter that we is the big Colorado cave explosion,
right.
where everybody on the line knew that if this train, because the diesel
they had
train,
to switch out the diesel for
to
coal. But because it's a tunnel,
and
right, you would suffocate everyone in that train.
But everybody on the line knew that this was a death train.
But because one important asshole was on that train and demanded that the train move forward, everyone had to find a way to make that train move forward regardless of the safety hazard.
And because of the directives in charge, they could not go against it. Like, they all knew this was going to lead to death, but because they did not want to bear responsibility for saying no, so they just went with
to
it.
this important government apparatchik.
Exactly. And so they suffocated an entire train, and then another train that was going through
carrying munitions
blew up.
They crash into each other and they collapse the entire tunnel, basically cutting off any kind of east-west line of transportation.
And I even wrote that there. So workers are recognizing the catch-22 of the system. Like, you can't, like, you damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
Malicious compliance. Like, here's where we can probably like emphasize like the hate in this book is that as the train is rolling, Ayn Rand listed like all these people who were on the train.
Yeah.
And they were like all these people who just didn't have like the same ideology as Ayn Rand.
Yeah, people she did not like.
And so made it seem as if these people should have died.
Sometimes I feel like there is a fantasy world that she was writing about where she punished all the people that had wronged her. And I think she put a lot of those people on that train in this book, so specifically so she could drop a mountain on them. And there's a lot that's like vengeful about the way she writes these characters, especially like having heard a lot about her history and having heard about her background and everything like that. So shunned by intellectuals, so she would have a reason to write that intellectuals were idiots and terrible people, and that there was no mind. She would have a reason to think of like other authors as being like just sycophants and propagandists.
And to give you an example, because luckily I wrote one example in my notes, was these people would never exist in the real world. For instance, the school teacher would focus on teaching basic English and math, not the will of the majority. Children wouldn't understand that. These are people who are unworthy, that you should not mourn. And it'd be like today if there was a train that blew up. It's like, well, the school teacher was teaching CRT, so we shouldn't.
Exactly, yes, right.
And it's
that
like,
was a DEI specialist.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that. The world's going chaotic. Dagny Taggart.
Damn it, get my name right. My name's Dagny Taggart.
I'm sorry. She hires a genius, Quentin Daniels, to try to rebuild the motor, which again already undercuts like one of the elements of this book is that like there's only like one genius per industry. Like nobody can recreate what these geniuses make.
Right.
And yet here comes Quentin Daniels.
These are the only people.
And here comes Quentin Daniels, who says, like, yeah, I can rebuild this motor.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, so Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
So they're not special.
Well, I guess we don't need these other guys,
Yeah.
right? So,
all right. Well,
I mean, if we found you, we could probably find someone to run the oil industry, and we could probably find another guy to run the steel industry,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And maybe those guys won't be such egotistical bastards to demand so much and have such a personal stake in the profit of their own mind.
Yeah. So he went off to Colorado to try to build the motor. Some time passes. Dagny has a moment.
I thought it was Utah.
Utah? Was it Utah?
Yeah, he goes off to Utah.
Utah. Dagny has a moment. She quits Taggart. She goes Continental. She stays out in the country lodge.
Right.
And then she
takes off for a month, right? In a country where people are supposedly punished, thrown in jail for quitting their jobs or walking off. And at the same time, everyone's walking off their jobs.
Yeah.
Right? There's just like mass walkouts. They can't find people to do anything because everyone's just like, well, I'm done. I've had it with this. I'd rather go starve or be part of a bandit gang or something like that. People just walk away from any kind of work because they can't handle being sycophants or they can't handle being like, cogs in this impossible machine.
During that time, she takes some time off. She hears about the comet explosion. She goes back to work to try to fix everything. That's when she sees that Quentin Daniels has resigned.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dagny goes, no, you can't. And first is on a train to try to get to Utah.
But the train breaks down.
The chain breaks down.
And
train
she meets a guy on the train. There's a tramp, hobo on the tramp that she shares dinner with. Like, well, you come and have dinner in my car, right? And this guy tells the longest story about how he was
20th century motors.
The 20th century motors, and he was an important. And then they put in the people's plan, and that's when everything. It didn't matter whether you worked hard or didn't work hard at all. Everyone got paid the same, and it turned out that if you didn't work as hard, you got paid more, and if you worked harder, you got penalized because it was a monotonous, repetitive, and a foreshadowing of a speech that comes later.
True.
Right? But this incredibly repetitive, drawn-out speech of everything that went wrong with American Motor Company because they
tried to essentially socialize.
Yes,
the idea is
they co-opt.
Yeah.
They co-opted. They did a cooperative.
But they did it in a way that wouldn't be realistic.
Absolutely
the
not.
idea is it's like
absolutely not.
The person who needs the most gets the most.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Right.
And it's just like no, the person who puts in enough effort or puts in hours.
But it also assumes that because the stories that this guy tells about the people who according to this person, according to this hobo, right, it encouraged people to just be lazy. Right? It encouraged people to just screw off on the job. It encouraged people to purposefully be incompetent or lazy or claim to be ill or disabled in some way that they weren't. Right? So this is the view of public ownership that Ayn Rand has in this book, is that no one does it out of actual belief in a common good. They do it for selfish reasons, right? They do it because I'm going to take advantage of society now. It's the same kind of reasoning that robber barons and industrialists have used to put down labor, to put down unions, to put down whatever, is that, or to put down even the social safety net, right? Social Security, the New Deal. Any of those kind of things. Well, welfare, this is how Ronald Reagan comes up with a term like welfare queen.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that's just going to encourage people to either have more babies and live off government assistance or just not work at all. It's going to encourage people to just be lazy, right? The poor are always lazy. The poor are always lazy, shifty. If we didn't crack the whip all the time over the poor, the working poor, they would just lay around and nothing would get done. And it's just
that's not how
it's not how anything works.
I mean, if you were to give someone money and say all right, you're going to get this much allowance every month. Mm-hmm. Sure, in the first 3 months or so, they'll be lazy. But at some point, the internal drive of purpose will kick in.
Yes.
And they will find something.
Places like Denmark, they it's just what you do. You're like, okay, I'm going to take a year off from working. I can't handle. I'm really burned out on a thing, right? So you can go on some kind of just government assistance for a while. Find either a different job or a job in the same kind of in the same industry that you came from. We talk about guaranteed universal income, right? Which is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
If we're automating and AIing all of these jobs out and tasks, right? Not necessarily jobs, but tasks, which also means jobs.
Yeah.
Then there should be some kind of assurance that we're not all just going to be on our asses because tech bros want to, came up with some way to consolidate more money and power. Guaranteed universal. It's if they want an economy that works, then people have to spend money, which means they need to have money to spend.
If they want to build a consumer economy,
right.
I would say.
Right.
So this
Okay.
a homeless person essentially does all the legwork for Dagny. This is such like Deus Machina.
Yes.
For her. But it's a frozen train. So the train doesn't break down. A frozen train became the term for trains that just suddenly stopped. And all the engineers, all the people working
Everyone
on it
just abandons.
abandon it. That's what happened to this train. So she takes a walk. She puts the homeless person in charge and gets to an airport. Flies to Utah to find Quentin Daniels. Hears that Quentin Daniels has boarded a plane himself to go somewhere. Like, where? Like, oh, they're leaving right now. There goes the plane.
They go on the runway.
So she runs back to her plane.
Hops
she
into a plane
and then
cranks it up.
Yeah, because that's all you have to turns the keys.
All of these people, they know how to drive a plane. They know how to run a train. They could probably jump into a tank and just be fine. A helicopter, it doesn't matter. They know how to do all of this. She just hops into a plane and takes off.
So she follows them
into the mountains.
There she has plane troubles that causes her to crash.
Well, no. What she does is because she loses sight of the plane that she was following because with her keen superhuman eyesight, she was tracking and following the plane. But then the lights of the plane disappeared.
Okay.
Right? So she does increasingly low altitude circles around the last place that she saw the plane. And that's what causes her to crash because she's getting into you're in the mountains and you're doing these low altitude passes where she's just circling around. So eventually it gets too low and, her wings clip a couple trees and she ends up going down.
Yeah. With that,
she wakes up in Galt's Gulch.
Yeah, Galt's Gulch. Right now, I'm actually going to kind of skip those two chapters because we'll talk.
Okay.
Because that leads into Bioshock.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's really the main thrust of Bioshock.
Right. Rapture.
So, okay, part 3 is the most pointless. So Dagny comes back. She is forced to give a speech. She denies giving that speech, but yet they put her on radio, and she, rather than give the speech to say "Oh, I support the government," she goes, "The reason why Hank Reardon gave up the medal was because because we were sleeping together, and he wanted to protect me."
Subverts the blackmail that Hank Reardon's wife was pulling on him,
and so completely negates that. Project X starts to come into play.
And then you never hear about it again.
Project X is pointless. There's no reason for it to be in the book.
Essentially, it's a sonic ray. It's a sonic death ray. That melts flesh.
What they were going to use it for?
Who knows?
Never mentions. Never. It's just
the Oppenheimer connection does kind of come in there, and that oh my God, this is a thing we should not have built. And who made this thing? Says Robert Stadler, Dr. Robert Stadler. Why, you did, Dr. Robert Stadler.
Everything's starting to collapse even more. They're nationalizing everything. Dayanconia Copper is nationalized, and so Francisco does the man thing and blows it all up. Everything.
Well, he'd been planning that for a long time too. He knew what was going on, and so his whole idea was that it's self-sabotaging the industry so that the government can't use it, thereby denying the government and, by extension, the people the use of their mind.
So everything's starting to unravel. Everything's falling apart. It's literally just repeating. Everything falling apart.
Yeah.
Dagny's doing everything everything she can to save the industries. We get to chapter 7.
She's the only one clinging on to she even leaves the safety of Galt's Gulch to go back and give it one more try. And continue fighting
against the looters.
Yeah, to fight against the looters.
Then we get to chapter 7, which you can tell I really gave up here because I titled every chapter with their title. I didn't do that here, and my only note was this is 60 pages of John Galt saying nothing. That's my only note.
The speech. The amazing speech
John
that
Galt,
nobody has read.
John Galt takes control of the airwaves, gives a 60-page speech.
With his magic technology.
Which is a 3-hour speech in real time.
Takes over broadcast signals nationwide.
Then the next chapter, John Galt is captured by the government.
This speech is so... I cannot believe. I was flipping through the book. Like, okay, so I'm reading this thing, and it just kept going and going. So then you kind of start flipping ahead, right? And then you just start catching like the first sentence of every paragraph, right? And you're like, okay, well, he's still talking about that. Okay, oh, he's still talking about that. Oh, well, this is just another example of the thing he just said. Well, how much more of this does? And then you keep flipping forward and flipping again. How much of this is there? And it is just the most repetitive, boring speech. It hurts so much. It hurts so much. But they capture him.
Yeah, they capture him. They capture him in order to put him in charge of the government.
Yeah.
They captured him because
they
the
need
looters,
him.
They need
Please.
him, which I was saying throughout this entire time, shoot him, kill him.
Just kill him. Just kill him.
And it's just like...
And he keeps saying, like, am I a prisoner? No. So, like, and again, it goes back to, like, just how poorly drawn these characters are. It's like everyone is so kind of mealy-mouthed, milquetoast kind of,
Yeah.
No, you're not a prisoner. Like, you're here at the Falkland Hotel, we put you in a nice suite and everything. Then am I allowed to leave? Well, let's not get hasty about leaving yet. Why don't you hear us out first?
And then it's just like, we want you to put in charge. You have full dictatorial power. All right, then free industry. Like, we can't do that.
We can't do that,
and it's just
though.
Like, then you don't know what a dictator is.
Yeah.
You don't know what you want.
Yeah.
But with that, they try to push him. Then they bring him out, put him in a tux, put him in like this big fancy situation. They put all this man has agreed to save our economy.
Yeah.
And so when he has
they essentially put him up as a puppet.
Yeah. But that falls. Dr. Statler tries to take over Project X. That blows up. Then the final chapter is the spy mission.
Oh my God.
Everything changes.
It's not even like, I don't even know if it's a spy mission. It's a rescue mission. So they go in to rescue John Galt from whatever.
Secret.
And this is a NORAD style vault complex, right? That they are holding him in. And it is Dagny Taggart, Hank Reardon, Francisco D'Aconia, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know who else, because I think it's just the three of them.
Maybe Ragnar.
Ragnar Daniscold.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pirate. We haven't even talked about pirate.
Yeah. So the four of them: Dagny, Reardon, Francisco, and Daniscold.
4 industrialists, right, with pistols, essentially, right, run into a high security compound, right, and just basically kill everyone who disagrees with them.
Yeah. I had to write, guns are good now? Because they're literally killing people.
Their main thing was that, I'm not going to give you my mind from the point of a gun.
And then they use a gun.
And then they use guns. And here's the shitty thing. What is so terrible is that before they kill everyone, so Dagny, the first time she kills someone, right, is she first confounds the guard with her relentless logic. How do you even know that you're, on the right side of whatever? And the guy goes, I guess, I wasn't told to shoot you yet. So she just shoots him. So essentially they go confounding all these guards because they're conflicted by their orders because no one's told them to shoot back at these people.
Yeah.
So they have no opposition at all. They're just murdering people left and right to get to John Galt.
Yeah. So they free John Galt. They make their way back to Galt's Gulch, where presumably the world collapses, and now they are planning the next phase of America.
Yeah. From their supervillain hideout headquarters, from the Legion of Doom, where they have developed a cure for cancer, a new form of law, a new form of governance, a new form of banking.
I don't think they formed new forms of banking. I think they did. The problem with Galt's Gulch is it's a philosophy of, or it's a collective of very like-minded people. They are literally a hive mind.
Right.
Where they expect like Midas Mulligan, who is in charge of the bank, to be so morally upright that he can be like the only bank.
That he could be the only bank. But they've done all this. They've developed. They've innovated so much stuff. The energy that they've managed to so they've solved the energy problem, right? They've solved the money problem. They solved the law problem. They solved the health problem. Like the very first time when the doctor says like, "Yep, I came up with a cure for cancer. I'm not going to give it to the world though. They don't deserve it." Well, screw that guy.
One, there's no criteria that we know of for how they were accepted into this utopia, because you have like Judge Narragansett, who's just like, I would issue judgments and then they would be countermanded. It's like that's how the judicial system works.
Appellate system. There's
and it's just like I was doing the law, but the question, because it's him saying he was like accurately administering justice. Like, was he?
Yeah.
Like, there's some question. And then, like, even the doctor is just like,
right.
Are you
can we trust that this person is the actual, like, top of his field? Like, there's always other experts. And there's consensus within fields.
If not top of their field, more just like, were they being ethical?
Right.
Like,
oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, there are implications to that kind of innovation.
Because if he's like, oh yeah, my name is Frankenstein, it's like, oh, so what did you experiment on? Well, like
I brought a person back to life.
Yeah, but everybody ran me out of town. Can you believe this? Like, so, and
that's a great example.
Like I saved someone.
Yes,
I saved several people.
I found a way to cheat death. We can all be immortal.
Yeah. The one thing that really got me was there were like one business owner who was able to outcompete another one in this business, in this gulch, and it's like, oh, what? Like, were they upset? Like, no, they came to join me.
They came and worked for me because they recognized that I was better.
And like, it was hard work. And now he's doing even better because he knew that he was working for essentially the winner.
He knew I was better.
And it was like, that would never happen.
Not at all.
If let's just say Threads were to collapse and Facebook collapsed, there's no way in hell Mark Zuckerberg would recognize that Twitter was better and he would then
work for
Elon Musk. It's just like, no, he would be pissed.
Like, he'd be mad. He'd go start something else. Or he'd go do or he'd screw off with his own money. I don't know. Are we allowed to swear in this?
I don't know. I don't know what if we have already, it's too late.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going back and trying to find bleeps.
Okay. Because you know how I normally talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like that where it's just like, well, yeah, rationally it makes sense. If they were able to outcompete me, then I should work for them because that means they're the best. And it's like,
yes.
That's not how businesses work at all.
No.
Like,
and it's not how narcissistic, egocentric CEOs work either, or founders of companies work.
Yeah. There's no way in hell that like Mark Cuban would ever like lose his business and be like, they did better. I got to go work for them.
Yep, I'm gonna go be a janitor.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go be a janitor for one of these Shark Tank guys.
So here we're talking about just in case the context was lost. We're talking about Gulch, which is the utopia that Dagny crashes into. Mm-hmm. These are where all the creative minds go on strike.
The ones who disappeared. That were turned by the destroyer.
And this is very much like the heart of Bioshock, because here, this utopia is essentially the idea of working for yourself, pure capitalism, being selfish. The idea is that nothing is free. You're eventually paying, which Dagny essentially she builds a tab, but it's just like,
yeah,
I'm not
right.
paying back that tab.
That was an interesting kind of like, that was a little. It seemed a little convenient that like, well, it's okay because nothing is free, right? Yeah. So everyone has to pay each other like a quarter, which to them a quarter is like
nothing.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a token. It's an idea that you're paying someone for a thing or for your labor or for whatever. And she's like, well, I don't have any of your fancy monies, and John Galt just says, well, let's tell you what, I'll start you a tab.
Yeah.
Right.
And she does start working like as his housekeeper.
Yeah. His servant.
His servant. But you have like judges, people who are in oil field, like now making potatoes and all that. It's like, all right. And then they bring in like labor.
They bring in servants.
And it's just like.
They bring in trusted like the porter that you first meet.
Owen Kellogg.
Early in the book.
Yeah, Owen Kellogg. And it's just like.
Richard Haley.
Quentin Daniel.
The composer.
Yeah, the composer.
Yeah, right.
And it's just like Quentin Daniel, or was it Owen Kellogg, was like, yeah, I'm gonna be like top brass one day. It's like, no, you're not.
No, you're not, bud.
Like you're there to serve. And they bring in
maybe when one of these guys die.
Yeah.
But I think they've worked out immortality, so I don't think that's happening either.
But then you have like workers, and it's just like you think that the guy working for Ken Deniger or Ellis Wyatt, like you think he just wants to be like the worker?
I'm okay with sweeping floors for the rest of my life.
And it's like, no, wouldn't he want to rise up? Like,
I used to run a company. I used to run one of the top companies of the business, but now I just want to mop floors for Ken Daniger.
Yeah. This society, like
unrealistic.
Even one thing I forgot to mention about during the Ayn Rand biography is that after this book, there were attempts, or at least pushes, to actually create this utopia, this free market society commune. And Ayn Rand herself believed that was ridiculous, that would not be possible. And it's like, what? You wrote that.
That was the high point of your book, was finding Galt's Gulch, this utopia where all these industrialists put together this society.
It only works like if people have that rational capability of recognizing like, oh, he got his money, he outcompeted me in an honorable way, therefore I should work for him.
Yeah.
But it's just like, no one can outcompete in an honorable way and be a billionaire.
Right.
Like, there's no real honorable way once you become a big enough business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like mom and pop store, sure, that's honorable. But like Walmart, no, there's no honor in that.
No, you will squeeze your workers. You will influence government. You will push for deregulation. You will automate wherever you can. Right. You know, when a company becomes that big, the bottom line is so important that everything they do drives towards making those profits bigger. Look at us right now, like we're the so-called inflation that we've been living through. Right, prices went up over the pandemic, and they never went back down because they realized that people will simply just pay more.
Yeah.
But wages didn't exactly go up. You know, even if they do, it's very like it's incremental. It never actually like reaches the point where anything's livable. Right.
Yeah.
You know, wages can go up, but once they realize that they can overcharge us, it never goes back down. Okay, fine. It seems like everyone's okay with paying this. They grumble a lot, but they're okay with paying it. Right? And that's not inflation. You know, that's just greed. Greedflation, I guess, is what it's been called. But that's what you see now.
We have no idea if that, like within Galt's Gulch, if the business actually practiced honorable methods to outcompete.
Right.
Like, right.
We're not given any of that information.
Any of that information. And it's just like, this is why Bioshock emphasize this, like particularly Galt's Gulch, because if you build something off of this laissez-faire capitalism, the idea of each their own, we're going to beat altruism, then you're going to have a multitude of different personalities.
Purely free market capitalist system with no rules, with no regulations.
No oversight. You're going to get people in on this on the ground floor who are not up to anything good.
Right, who are disingenuous, people who are unscrupulous, right? People who will do anything to climb. If you really want, if you really want Darwin take the wheel, get ready for some of the most heinous stuff to happen. And in order for a person to reach the top, in order for a person to reach the at least a comfortable level or above that in an industry or of that society. And it's also like I have things to say about this book beyond just like this book sneers at you.
Oh yeah.
There's a kind of there's an elitism in this book, and for a person who is a self-acknowledged mediocre,
Yeah, mediocrity.
right? A mediocritite. I've never really been good at jobs, and I've never really been good at a lot of stuff, and I think we were talking about this earlier. Is it like that? I don't want to achieve immense wealth or success, right? I don't strive to. I want to be comfortable, and I think everybody wants to be comfortable. Not everybody wants to participate in a meritocracy where we have to claw and fight each other all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody wants to participate in that. A lot of people, most of us, probably just want to be comfortable. We just want to be okay. We want to be able to take trips when we can. We want to eat better food than normal. Or than poverty food,
Yeah.
right? What would be considered that kind of thing. So and this book kind of sneers at you if you're not constantly achieving something, right? If you're not as superhuman as any of these characters, then you need to either try harder or you need to give up and go die in a field or something, right? Which is that was probably the most offensive thing about the book of reading it. The most like kind of like the thing that really angered me the most about the book was just how it judged me, right? And you go through this when we talked about her background is just how judgmental it was.
Yeah.
Right. The teaching method was to judge a person and into being better.
Yeah.
Right. And which never works. And it just like it was I was just so mad at the book because I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know me, book. All right, don't even think to. All right. Like I do my best, all right?
Yeah, we got this.
All right, but I don't got to be like kicking my ass all the time. I got a bad back and crappy knees. I don't need to hear this from you, book.
All right, we've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes now. Should probably wrap up.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
With that, just to give my final, I'll do my final thoughts, and then we'll do your final thoughts. My final thoughts is having now actually looked up Ayn Rand's life and this book. I think there are some merits to objectivism in the sense that if what I've read is just like some of the tenets are just like, never give up. Be a good person. If you're in a dangerous situation, try best to get out of it. Like on surface, I think these are creeds that we can agree. Like the idea, she says selfishness, but I really think it's more like know your boundaries. Like know what you are willing to do for others and what you want others to do for you. Like I think this book fails on every level to actually
Absolutely
project
fails.
Objectivism.
Yeah.
Because from what I've read, I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to be like, no, it does everything right. And it's just like, well, from what I've read,
or they're going to say we just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is that if anything, I overget it. It feels like this is a very immature, like it's an emotionally and kind of intellectually immature book.
Yeah. Because it's just like she wasn't against the state. She's not pro-state, but she's for limited government. She believed in having a government, and this book shows the worst government. Is anti-government.
If it tells you what kind of government it is, which it doesn't really.
And so like there's one thing I would say fails, and she has no respect for workers, and it's just like workers aren't looters if they're just forced to do their job.
Yeah.
Like if they are going to send a train into a tunnel to essentially blow up
to their certain death,
and they have to do this, otherwise they could lose their job.
Yeah.
Then like
send me to jail, man.
It's so.
What are you gonna do?
I think with that, then having read this. Those who say like, oh, Bioshock is a poor critique of Ayn Rand and objectivism, I think you could be correct there. But I don't think you're correct when it comes to it being a critique of Atlas Shrugged.
Of the book itself.
Yeah. Because the book itself was written at a time when she was very insulated, very much in the cult process.
And hopped up on bennies.
And written without a sense of real-world groundedness.
Mm-hmm. Out of touch.
This philosophy presented in the book, not anything else, just in the book, is a vacuum. And that's the only way that this version of objectivism found in this book could succeed.
Or any kind of I wouldn't call this a dystopia just because I love dystopian fiction. Dystopian fiction follows a kind of logic, right? When you build a world, the world has rules.
Yeah.
And this didn't seem to follow any kind of rules. Things just happen willy-nilly. Things drop out of nowhere, out of some shadow government that we never know anything about.
True.
A dystopia, like a good dystopia, is an extrapolation of what you see now into the future with the rules that, that would logically be established as you extrapolate into that future. This doesn't do that. Like this It takes in the span of a few years, a couple of years.
Specify years.
It just slams society, destroys it, and out of nowhere, from everything's a Deus ex machina. Everything is willy nilly. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it happening, and it's not a thing that's believable as a thing to happen, and none of this is believable. When you look at a Brave New World or even 1984, it's okay, it's kind of believable. I can see how if we followed a certain path, that is that could get really scary. Or V for Vendetta or something like that.
And they also ground them in a way that they actually present some sort of history before.
Right.
1984 at least brings up these were capitalists.
Yes.
And, this idea that there was a war.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
something happened.
Yeah.
Right. Handmaid's Tale. It always comes from somewhere. They tell you where it comes from.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't satisfy any of that criteria. It's not a very well-written book, and knowing more about her history, you do get that idea that the repetition, the drugs probably had a lot to do with it, the being out of touch and part of a cult, all of it's a cycle. It's all symptoms of one thing, which is just kind of this narcissism, inability to kind of get with other people, an inability to be social, to experience any kind of sociality or empathy. With anyone else. So that isolation, I think, probably started early with her, and this is the end result of that, is just this kind of rambling fantasy of her philosophy. But you're right. I don't think it satisfies any of what you've told me about objectivism, which I don't know. I didn't really know anything about.
I've only got what I got from YouTube and some article. And
right.
So obviously we are laymen in all this. But going off of Atlas Shrugged, having read it, we can now say, all right, we have a clear, at least for us, an idea of what this book is trying to say.
Yes.
And that's the main purpose.
And that was part of the reason why I wanted to take on this challenge, was that I can say I did it.
Yeah. And so obviously, having gone through this is there's much more to obviously for any philosophy. There's way more than the surface,
and lots of hay has been made out of this book and its impact.
With that, going through the story, kind of giving our 2 cents on aspects of this. This is the foundation of what Ken Levine would use as his philosophy for Bioshock.
And Rapture.
And Rapture. So it's really a critique of those 2 chapters that are in Galt's Gulch more than anything.
Yeah.
A lot of things are going to line up. If you already are familiar with Bioshock, then you know that Ayn Rand's history and Andrew Ryan's history are essentially the same.
It is strikingly similar. Yeah. It was basically pulled, it's word for word.
It makes sense. I said my final thoughts.
I think I said a lot of final thoughts.
We kind
of had a number of final thoughts.
So with that, thank you all for listening. hopefully this was a new medium for us. Bringing my friend in, Ron.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, Ron.
Hey, thank you for having me, Bobby. This was really great.
Yeah. Make sure to check out his YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because he does Kurt Vonnegut.
I just read Kurt Vonnegut books. It's not like I do any commentary or anything. It's just I read audiobooks, on Audible and whatnot. And so just as practice, I read Kurt Vonnegut because I love Kurt Vonnegut. I'm a big fan of Kurt Vonnegut. I've always been a fan of his works, and I thought it would be interesting to go through all of his novels and reread them. And some of them I make into audiobooks that are just kind of out there on YouTube. It's not monetized. I have no intention of monetizing the channel. And there's also like some ukulele songs in there too. So, I don't know if either of those things are interesting to you. Stop by, check out
so please check him out. He's a good friend of mine.
Hey, thank you.
Very appreciative of everything he's been able to do, not just for me, but with me. And let us know what you think. We hope to get 2 more podcasts out, one looking at Bioshock and one much more deeper into the analysis between Bioshock and Atlas Shrugged.
Because I'd love, it's been a while since I played Bioshock. I know that I've played it multiple times. And again, definitely check out audio documentary of the history of Rapture before we get into this section about Bioshock, because it is, for a person as a gamer who just kind of just blasts through from objective to objective, just like basically you want to mission, shooting, killing stuff, figuring out the game, things like audio logs tend to get lost. And so this strings it all together in a way that is a very interesting story. Thank you.
And if there's any other literary video game connection.
Oh, yeah.
Please send it our way. We might, if this works, if you're interested in hearing us just talk, this would be a good way of trying to turn this into something that we can do on a regular basis.
Yeah,
if
right.
possible.
I mean, I can't even think of what other video game might be like based on a literary work.
I mean, there's some adaptations, the Metro series.
Oh, right. Well, but that's more, it's a kind of literal adaptation.
Yeah. But that's why.
Yeah, right.
if there is something.
Yeah, if anybody knows of a video game that was made about War and Peace, let us know. We're all for it.
Yeah.
I can't
wait.
What
about Infinite Jest?
Infinite Jest. If there's a video game made out of Infinite Jest, kill me now. Half of it's a tennis school and the other half of it's an AA meeting.
But with that, thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.